so much. I believe in all of you, and I am confident we can do it. Thank you very much. I have just come from Buckingham Palace, where I have accepted His Majesty the King's invitation to form a government. I know people at home are fed up with politics. I hear you, and I want to be honest with you. We have not been good enough, and we need to be better. We will be.
This man has no mandate whatsoever. He didn't stand on the 2024 general election manifesto. You cannot make the biggest change in British politics in 40 years without a mandate from the British people, and it will be only decent, right and proper to call a general election on that issue and to do it now.
Our fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well,
I think Burnham has to walk a fine line. I think that's probably what's going on, because if he were to sweep into Downing Street and say, I'm going to change everything, I'm going to fix everything, I'm going to do things completely differently to Starmer, then people would say, hold on, mate, we need a general election in that case, because no one voted for that. No one voted for you to be Prime Minister. You weren't standing in the 2024 general election. We've never seen your manifesto. Who the hell are you? That's what people would be asking.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, my dear, dear friends. I just want to start the breakfast show. We don't know if you saw the brand new Holly Willoughby thing on YouTube yesterday, but are you OK this morning? I hope you are OK. I hope that wherever you are, you're enjoying your Wednesday. As long as you're OK. What a load of old... Anyway, there we go. Very good morning. I'm going to jump straight in on Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense and the home of you, the alarm clock. Brit, you know how to be on. Tommy is here. Tommy, unbelievably talented. That's what he asked me to say. Taking your calls. It's working today. 0344 499 1000. Calls to Tommy. Prize, I've got some overnight oats drizzled in banana. I don't even know why. That's your prize this morning for the first voice note. Make it relevant. Christian's here. You can text as well, 87222. Now, I'm going to dive straight in because he's walked into the studio. Ladies and gentlemen, Charlie Reddy, you know it says former Conservative Special Advisor. Does that mean you still haven't got a job?
Well, I consider this incredibly hard work.
Do you?
Don't mind me saying.
You know, people say we're like Hinge and Bracket. Who are you, Hinge or Bracket?
I can be whoever you want me to be.
Really? I think you're more like a bracket because you hang off everywhere, don't you, to be honest? Do you know what I mean? Although, is it a hinge?
Unhinged.
Yes.
Unhinged.
How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks.
So we're on for an hour. We've got a great show lined up for you today. Some amazing guests, by the way. We've got Chris Philp, the shadow Home Secretary from the Tory party, who accused, and it was extraordinary, I mean, he was the French of firing warning shots near him in the Channel yesterday. Should we just see this clip? This is Chris Philp yesterday, and we've got him on the show this morning. Have a look.
I mean that anyone who did cross the Channel and arrive in Dover could be immediately deported within around about a week.
Give that a second, he's just dragging a line by the look of it.
Is that a warning shot towards us? I don't know.
That's what I was trying to work out.
Okay.
As far as I know, if you're having a live firing exercise, then that's always announced on the VHF to all the vessels in the vicinity, and they actually will give the position of where that's going to take place. And I didn't hear there's been nothing announced on the VHF from what we've heard this morning. We've been out since 6 o'clock.
Yeah. So it sounds like it might have been an effort to intimidate us.
It could well have been. It might have just been a little bit of a warning shot, and maybe just trying a bit of show of force or something.
That's okay, French. You just fire at the foreign home, the shadow Home Secretary, despite the fact we're giving you 500 million. We've got the ex-leader of the Tory party, Ian Duncan-Smith. Loads of people on the show this morning, but none as important, as well-versed and as unemployable as Charlie Rowley.
well, you did also say, yes, you're right, former special advisor, but I have to say I never felt special or gave any particular good advice.
That's why you'll always be welcome on this show. He's not special and no good. Let's jump straight in. The one thing that I am utterly convinced about, and I've got lots of thoughts at the moment about what's happening with reform or what's happening about Burnham, and I start every day by saying I sort of think, and don't jump up and down alarm clock, Brits, because I'm more cynical than you lot. I think his heart might be in the right place, although I think we've got this sort of Andy Burnham's going to try and tackle the world on his own, right? Before we start specifically, I've noticed, Christian has, I've noticed something about Andy Burnham. I don't know if you ever heard him speak when he was the mayor of Manchester. He was quite erudite. In the last 9 days, he's gone from that to, you have a listen, have a watch. This is him. He's gone all
Do you have a plan to tackle small boat prices?
The Home Secretary has brought forward a very rigorous plan in relation to this. And let's remember, of course, the numbers can fluctuate, but overall, boat crossings are down quite significantly year on year. So that does suggest that the plan is working. Of course, there has to be rigorous checks so that people are not put through into a situation where they are out without the relevant safeguards. And absolutely, I can give you a commitment that that is the clear instruction that I am giving, that all relevant and necessary checks must be done.
15 hours. I'm not being personal, but maybe the job of Prime Minister is more stressful than you know. But let's get straight to it. He says, and I quote, "I'm finally going to address the absolute elephant in the room, the issue that everybody in England wants an answer to. He insists that Labour's plan to stop dinghy migrants is working, despite the fact that nearly 1,000 have crossed since he became Prime Minister." Can you please strip that down? Because that is wrong and a lie, isn't it?
Well, it is, obviously, because more people...
see, he's done it as well now. Stop going
It's contagious. Well, I'm erring on the side of caution. But look, well, on that, let's be perfectly honest about it. I mean, he's not faced a leadership contest. He's not.
You've done it again.
He's not put himself through the ringer. This is a man on the fly.
Yeah.
You know, he's announcing a policy every day. That's his media strategy, or that's his government strategy throughout the summer, to have a new announcement every day. He's not going to be across all the detail of all of them because that's too much in comparison to also what he's trying to chuck in there, which are these visits. I mean, that was a lovely picture there with a high-vis...
I couldn't hear a word he was saying, to be honest. But my issue, and for the people that we broadcast to, I suspect, wherever you're listening in the country, the small boat issue and immigration is very, very central for many reasons, because not only the madness of allowing people unvetted to come into this country and actually commit crimes against, you know, English girls, am I allowed to say that? Yes, absolutely. But also the drain on a society and an economy that is on its backside, that we're giving away all this stuff. And when people say to me, I'm back at my favourite argument about the bloke on the left-wing radio station who says, oh, Jeremy Carter says, but these poor migrants. No, they haven't come from war-torn countries, you idiot. They haven't brought their women and children with them. They've come here because we wiped their backsides with our welfare service to the detriment of the people that need it. And that's my point every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, you know, the people who are putting people on the boats, those criminal gangs, people that are coming over, you know, they are not stupid, right?
Of course they're not.
So they will know, and they will hear that, OK, the UK currently spends more on welfare than it does on defence. It has more money going out than it has coming in terms of the Treasury books. And so if you've got... I did it again. If you've got a country that is providing more in terms of state benefits, that is more generous, of course you're going to hop in a dinghy and make that crossing in order to have a better life for yourself, because you're an economic migrant, you're not a refugee.
Completely. And then the unfairness angle comes in that we talk about the whole time. I watched a clip from Burnham on Koonsberg last night, right? And she said about welfare, can you categorically say that there are people taking benefits who don't deserve it? And he went on about NEETs and all these kids, and I get all of that. I said it yesterday. But there are people scamming the system, and there are illegal migrants coming to this country, again taking advantage, and we know too many people who are struggling. And Andy Burnham, look, it's a honeymoon period, no scrutiny from Parliament, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not being negative, because he's much of an upgrade on Keir Starmer. This pen would have been an upgrade on Starmer, but... it's not going to wash, mate. You can't expect to tell people... I mean, I would have preferred him go, do you know what? Actually, it isn't working. We have had 1,000 of these people. It is unacceptable. But there is a fear of upsetting the left for daring to say, you know, these people are illegal migrants. They're not, you know, they're not coming from war-torn countries. So, Yeah, listen, his heart might be in the right place, but to me, that was appalling. That's just the same old, same old.
Totally. And there are two things here, because I think, look, he's posing as someone who is a nice guy, you know, someone who automatically you think, OK, even if you don't agree with him politically, you might still think, well, I'd rather go for a pint down the pub.
Would you go for a pint with him?
Of course I would. Over Keir Starmer, of course I would, because he seems more personable, even if your politics is totally different.
Yeah.
And he's come in to say, look, I want to give the country a bit of breathing space. He said, I need a bit of breathing space, but he's announcing something every day. At least you feel, even if you... And there are big questions to answer, which is how are you going to fund all of these things you're announcing?
Absolutely.
But at least he's announcing something every day.
According to my nemesis, by the way, that makes you a dour, miserable, far-right git to even be questioning why we should be... The reason that I'm questioning it, and I'm going to say it repeatedly, is that I think his heart's in the right place. I don't have to agree with his politics. I think the optics are infinitely better than Starmer by a mile. But it is absolutely the duty of not the mainstream media, because they won't do it, because they're all currently blowing smoke to Andy Burnham. If this station is anything, this station has to say, right, we're not against it, Mr Burnham, but we are up to our back teeth with letdowns and promises that aren't fulfilled and the highest taxation. And you're talking about a death tax, you're talking about inheritance tax, you're talking about this tax and that tax. It's very nice you're offering sweets, as somebody said yesterday, but how the bloody hell? Because we think, us alarm clock Brits, that we'll end up paying for it again.
Absolutely. And you can't just, you know, turn up with a smile on your face and, you know, be sort of bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, you know, lovely eyebrows. And
I think they need, what's that thing called? Threading.
Threading, potentially.
Have you ever had yours threaded?
I haven't. No, I haven't. My eyebrows.
Yes.
No, not at all.
Hinge and bracket, it's more like unhinged. It's a complete racket. Argue amongst yourselves who the bloody hell you are, says JB in Aberdeenshire. Trev in Boston, new Prime Minister, but same old Labour. Labour has no intention of stopping the boats just as they change the demographics of the UK. Also, can someone please tell Zach Polanski he's not a politician, he's a very naughty boy. This is the other story, apart from Burnham and the boats and Chris Phil. Zach Polanski yesterday refusing 7 times to apologise for that shameful Instagram post showing a guillotine, or as Tommy says, it's guillotine. In France, let me fire at the... Never mind. And the words, we are only making plans for Nigel. Polanski actually blames Farage for amplifying the T-shirt's message, even though Zach shared it to his 700,000 followers. He said, I took it down, it was a mistake, it was a mistake. I said yesterday on the show, I don't condone what Lucy Connolly wrote at all. Make that point. She got jailed for 31 months and she took that tweet down. Zach Polanski's going to get away with it? Or is it all part of him trying to be relevant because his poll numbers are slipping anyway?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, you know, there is absolutely a case to answer. I don't want police to go after tweets or hurty words or things like that. However, there is context here where Anne Widdecombe, a Reform spokesperson, a former Conservative, yet another politician that
was bludgeoned to death by, you know, and rhetoric like that is no way helpful.
Absolutely, and that's why I think this matters. And it's not just because I know nothing about that bloke that was wearing that T-shirt. None of us do. And in hindsight, he could be, I don't think he is, but, you know, in hindsight, he could be holding his head in his hands. He could be so apologetic. He could be mortified that he is now the centre of public attention and that he's in every national newspaper.
I don't think so myself. I could be wrong.
No, I don't think so either. But the fact that, and this man might be, you know, I don't know, he might be, you give to charity, he might have how many ever animals that he might look after. I don't know anything about this man, but I'm not
Hamster's
justifying...
still alive, by the way.
However, even though he might not actually want to go and do anything sinister, as his T-shirt indicated, towards Nigel Farage or anyone else, there will be nutters and crackpots in our country who live amongst us, who want to do the kind of harm that we've seen against Anne Widdecombe and other politicians in our country. They would be motivated by that kind of T-shirt. So that is why it's not necessarily against this individual, even though, I mean, I don't want to meet this guy for the kind of, if he thinks it's OK to wear that T-shirt, well, then I think he needs his head checking. But there'll be other people that think that that is OK. And if it's shared and laughed at by people like Zach Polanski and people that support his party, if he thinks that that's acceptable to be retweeted, it might just motivate someone to go that extra mile. That is why it's so important. That's why the police do have to get involved, I'm afraid, in this case, just as they did with Lucy Connolly.
6:15, you were taught breakfast, the home of common sense. Charlie Rowley, Jeremy Hinge and Brackett are on. Small boats. I mean, Andy Burnham yesterday said, and I quote, you know, we're doing it, the plan's working. That's on the week that 1,000 more illegal migrants arrived on our shores. Morning, Buzz.
JK, travelling Buzz here. course, Burnham, the puppet, has turned into, if you notice, that was mostly Starmer and Reeves when they're trying to think of an answer to give you. Smoke and mirrors. What's that, 9 days now that he's been in, and he's finally spoke about immigration, but from other people, not from what he's actually going to do.
Oh, sorry. I wish Christian and I really want to do. Can I say that or not really? Do you not want me to say that? Christian's looking a bit confused. Anyway, right, we won't. But honestly, I have to say that if you could see what's said or hear what's said off air, Charlie's gone bright red. Thank you, Buzz. The voice note system, hurrah, is working. 0344 499 1000. Morning, JK and Charlie. Is it just me? But I'm sick to death of bloody high vis. When I go into town, I stand out because I'm the only person not in bloody high vis. Is high vis the state's favourite fetish wear, says Cliff in Berkshire? No idea. Fetish?
There is no such thing as a government ministerial visit without wearing high vis.
Oh,
You've
really?
got to wear a hard hat.
And have you ever been to a fetish club in a high vis jacket?
Not a fetish club, no, but
What was that? What was that? Oh, there he is. There's Andy. There's Andy in his high vis. Oh, he's coming out of the door with a, oh, everybody's got high vis on. Look, we'll all have a good old, oh, hello, how are you? Ridiculous. Boat crossings will be down, says Dale, who despairs in Halifax, because they're using bigger boats to get more illegal aliens on. So the boats are down, but the people are not. I give up. That's quite interesting. Roger's in Wales. Say good morning to Roger from Wales.
Good morning, Roger.
What is it? What is Welsh for? Bore da to you. That wasn't very good. I'd like you to ask your guest this morning to guess how much extra money would be available if they scrapped net zero, cancelled benefits for non-UK citizens, expanded drilling in the North Sea and cancelled foreign aid and disability benefits for under-18s.
Well, all of that would be billions. I imagine I'd say about 30 billion.
Much more, surely.
30, 40, 50 billion, maybe?
40 billion, says the Mail, page 2, cost of net zero by the end of the decade. But that's not just that. I could find 50 billion and sort defence and social care tomorrow. I said it yesterday. Cancel net zero, genuinely. Cut... take 2 million people who are gaming the system off benefits, close the borders, make those people do the work for the benefits they're getting, and cancel foreign aid. I could sort out the Navy and the Army and the Air Force in a heartbeat. What's wrong with these people? Roger says, so you reckon you were wrong there, wouldn't you? This is why he's a former advisor.
Well, I got net
Imagine
zero.
you call him and say, Charlie, you're my advisor, I'm the Prime Minister. Give me some idea of how much all this would be. Oh, about 30 billion. You're wrong, Charlie, you're fired. Good morning, Jez. Ree Burnham, remember to err is human, to forgive. Divine, says Michael. This is because Andy Burnham just goes, and to err is human. I thought it was to err on the side. Never mind, I don't know. Oh, look, here we go. Jez, and now Burnham to hold a cross-party talks about social care, Ed Davis and Badenoch. That's a lie. That wasn't right in the news. Badenoch is actually having a procedure. She's in hospital for a couple of days. So actually Stuart Andrew, we had on the show the other day, he's in that meeting. Their red line is it shouldn't be paid for with tax. Ed Davis, he's called Ed Davey, that's about as exciting as he is. No Nigel Farage. Further proof, says Paul in Spain, that the establishment will do nothing but to stop reform. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think, look, if you want a cross-party talks, then it's got to be cross-party. It can't just include, I think you've got to get as many people around that table to have that discussion. Because it is a big thing, adult social care.
Yeah, I agree, completely.
And it hasn't been fixed. I think well, what's the word?
I've no idea. What is the word?
What was touted in the press about the idea of having a 10% levy on death tax. I mean, I think that would be extraordinary and the wrong approach, because there'll be people that will end up paying more through these. But again,
I like the openness and the honesty of him, right?
Yeah.
But there has to be a reality. Bill says, the reason he errs is because he's out of his depth. I don't know if he's out of his depth. There will be proof in the pudding. I like the sentiment, but it's glaringly obvious. When Kunzberg said to him, do you announce today that there are people on benefits who are basically taking the pee? No, I wouldn't say that. It's a lost generation. No, there are people taking the pee, right? There are illegal immigrants coming into this country, fact, unvetted. There are people gaming the welfare system, fact. You've got a whole bunch of very brilliant people working their backsides off, alarm clock Brits, who are struggling, and they go, so you're giving all this money to people who aren't working taking who don't deserve it, not the genuine. You're giving money to illegal migrants and you're sending billions abroad for countries who, frankly, might be in trouble, but we're really struggling. It's not difficult. Stand in front of your people and say that and say, I haven't got a magic wand, but I'm going to prioritise you, the British people. Morning, Angry Rob's here.
Morning, Jez. Morning, Charlie. I hope your hair's growing back a bit more, because the other week you did look a little bit strange there. Looked like you've been conscripted into the Polish army in 1940, mate. Anyway, Burnham, the small boats. Ooh, you gaslighting fiend, you. What did you say? The number of boats is coming down? Of course they are, because they're the size of a bloody P&O ferry. They don't need to send 20 little boats when they can just send 3 really big ones. You know what I'm saying? It's not exactly rocket surgery, is it, Burnham? Good God, man. You gaslight everybody every time you open your mouth. Oh, I'm going to fix social care in this country by taking away money from people who, when they die, yeah, you're going to fix something, ain't you? You're one step away, mate, from wearing a mask and a gun.
I said that the other day. I went to buy something and the woman said whatever, and I went, Robin Hood wore a mask, love, and she didn't laugh at all. I love Angry Rob. Doesn't Angry Rob sum up? Right, you know, the feelings of so many. But I want to put this to you on air, because there has been behind your back a campaign to unseat you from doing the papers. You know that, and to replace you with Angry Rob. And I fought against this. I've said no. Charlie is the man. Well, yeah.
Angry Rob would do a brilliant job. But
why don't you just say it? Stop being the advisor. Stop sitting on the fence. Say he's useless. I'm better.
But I just wish he would say what he really thinks.
Yes,
sometimes.
I know.
Honestly,
I do feel with Rob he holds back.
Yeah, exactly.
We love Angry Rob, and for those of you who don't know, we are going to instigate Talk North. I'm going to take the show north. Honestly, I am. And we found well, Rob from Newcastle, he's got 10 acres and a swimming pool. So we're going to do the show from the garden. There'll be a spa at lunchtime. You're coming. But Angry Rob will be appearing. And we're sending the jet. We're going to Newcastle. Have you been to Newcastle?
I have been to Newcastle. I'm a big fan of Newcastle.
Yeah, good. Well, we're certainly not going on the train. None of that rubbish. Yeah, I mean, Christian's like, are we really going on a plane? I went, yeah, we are. It was great. So Talk North will happen and Angry Rob will appear. What do you think?
Well, I'm all for that, actually. Because it's important to get out and about around the country.
Have you ever been north of Watford Gap? Seriously?
I have. No, I've been. I go down very well everywhere, Jeremy, including above Manchester.
Above Manchester?
Of course, I've been north of Manchester.
It is really interesting, actually, that people will assume Burnham is obviously the Prime Minister. He makes a big thing about Manchester, doesn't mention Crackadilly. And it's really interesting that for him, the epicentre of England is Manchester.
And do you know what? That's why I originally, when you talked about just Talk North there, I scoffed a little bit, because even though Starmer, we don't know, Starmer's gone history.
Where is Starmer?
But we don't, maybe still at the pub, you never know. But no one can really tell us, apart from all the negative things, which there's a huge shopping list there, what does Starmer actually do? What's his legacy? What did he stand for? In the 48 hours, we know that Andy Burnham has number 10 North. That's what he's achieved. That's what he's got.
We also know that he's been planning it for a year.
He's been planning it for a year. But how... this is why I don't want to give him a hard time, because he's new in the job and he is doing things. He's announcing things.
He's appearing proactive.
He's appeering proactive, and that's what we need. We need a doer, not just a North London lawyer that talks.
A doer, not a show, was it?
But the problem,
a grower. Yes, thank you very much.
And Andy Burnham might grow on me, but what we've got at the minute is someone that is just announcing things, not telling us the detail. He's got to come back to Parliament to tell us where all that money's coming from and how he's going to achieve all the things that he said. But I can already feel that he's slipping back into... He's not becoming the Prime Minister, the statesman that I would have imagined actually Burnham to be, which really would have worried me as someone that doesn't vote Labour, but who knows? He might even win me over. I doubt it, but, he's slipping into this, right, I'm now in the top job, I'm going to play to my base, which is obviously the Manchester crowd, I'm going to be a good-time Prime Minister, so give out lots of sweets, I'm not going to hurt anybody, I'm not going to offend anybody, I want to be loved, I want to be the 70s sort of Labour-esque.
Do you know why I love what you're saying? I had a friend, I'm not going to go into detail, he was offered one of the biggest jobs in radio to go in as the boss. This was years and years ago, and he said to me, they've had 7 bosses in 7 years. What is the point of me giving up this gig to go and do it? I said, because you've been offered it. And he said, but what I want to do is extraordinarily different. I said, well, do it. And if you last a year, you can look yourself in the mirror. He lasted 8 years. I want a politician who has the conviction to tell us that things maybe aren't great, that there are issues, that he's going to, or she is going to do something about it, take us with them, because that is conviction. That is what Thatcher did. That is what Blair did. I don't see it. And you're right. He's got the job, and now he's going to be all things to all people. Surely you must learn from Starmer that all things to all people doesn't work. Are we going to the voice break? Well, who have we got? Who's the voice note, please? Colin, good morning.
Morning, Jezzy. Morning, Charlie Rowley. Colin, truck driver from Blackburn. Just going back out on Margaret Watch, back into sunny Europe. And my question, what do you call it? Hold on a minute. All the best, Jezzy. All the best, Charlie. Ta-ra.
To be here with you all in the heart of Manchester this Friday morning at the end of, you know, a fairly big week is just everything to me.
If I have to watch one more saccharine video of him pulling a pint or talking about his favourite bar snacks with John Healey, whatever mawkish, minimalising, utterly moronic, stupid bit of social media tidbit they're trying to throw to us, you know, the sugar to help Marx's medicine go down.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. 6:28. It is Wednesday, July the 29th. Charlie Rowley, Jeremy Carl, live and exclusive across the United Kingdom. A double dose of, well, whatever. Listen, we've talked Burnham. We've talked about the boats. It's working. No, it's not. 1,000 have come over. We've talked about Polanski. Won't apologise for that shameful post. I want to talk about, just want to go back to yesterday, because the Mail have this all over their front page. Yesterday, Andy Burnham stood up and he said, I have to say I supported this. You weren't here. Not everybody is made for or should go to university. There's probably too many universities with too many piffly courses, and what's wrong with getting kids into apprenticeships or getting them to work? Absolutely, I support that. Comes out today that the reality of this is why people are cynical. This is not made up. Basically, if you're on benefits, right, if you can get your kid, Charlie, to go and join an apprenticeship, this government is going to give you £4,500 of my tax money. So rather than say, actually, you know, Mummy and Daddy, I'm not going to subsidise you for your kid to get off. Why don't you get off your arse and get a job? That might be a good idea. We're going to bribe people, but only on benefits. This is where the problems start, because that just sends a message, why the hell would I work for a living? What a joke.
Exactly that. You know, it is about getting people off welfare into work, and you're not going to do that or incentivise people, parents, to do that if they all of a sudden realise I can get £4,000.
Do you know how I'd incentivise the... And by the way, right, because people don't like this. They'll go, oh, I am not talking about the genuinely mentally ill, disabled or incapable of work. I'm talking about a fact that many people will not accept that there are millions. Do you know how I get them back to work? By stopping their bloody benefits unless they gave me something back for it and proved they were looking.
Well, quite right too. Exactly. The way in which people have to supposedly check in with, work coaches or turn up at the job centre and prove that they've been looking for work or whatever.
Does that happen?
It doesn't happen, no, because the queues are too big and the system is overcooked and there aren't that many people. And
quite anxious if you have to queue for half an hour.
Well, precisely. But going into an apprenticeship or going to university or whatever route that you take should be based on, you as an individual, your strengths and your talents. It shouldn't just be about, right, the state will give... And the state should support people in every way that it can, in whatever direction people should be taking.
How are you expecting... the social care thing, I don't want old people living in... both my parents died of dementia. I'm completely with Andy Burnham on this. But rather than giving 400 grand to people on benefits to say, could you get your sons to go and do an apprenticeship? I'd rather give that 4.5 grand for every old person who's worked all their lives and can't afford to stay in a care home unless they sell a property that they probably didn't want to... I'm like you, I don't want to be cynical. I want to be enthralled. I want to be dragged in by Burnham. But it's almost as if that same Starmer thing, let's be all lovely, very nice, everybody's going to get some money. How are you going to pay for it?
But it's also the way in which, Burnham's mind is thinking, is in full display. This is why I think he's taking, the Labour Party, but also the country to, the far left, I'm afraid. This is becoming 1970s stuff. And again, I don't want to be too...
9 days in. I'm like you, we don't want to be cynical, but it's factual, right?
But it's fact, because, he was talking about, OK, a whole lost generation of people that have far too long gone to university. 50% was the target under Tony Blair. By the way, a government which Andy Burnham was part of, so let's not forget that. And he was Education Secretary at one point, so again, let's not forget that he has, contributed to some of that. But also, where's he been? Because over... As I can tell and attest as a former Conservative Special Advisor...
Former unemployable.
The emphasis on the former. A lot of work went into getting people into apprenticeships and vocation courses throughout the coalition years, funny enough, actually from 2010 to 2015. And then afterwards, there was an emphasis on getting people into apprenticeships. Rishi Sunak talked about it. Boris certainly talked about it. Keir Starmer talked about it.
And do you know who the only politician who actually managed to do something about it? He's on this show later, Ian Duncan-Smith, who was Work and Pension Secretary for 2 years.
Absolutely.
Cannot wait to ask him this. I just think it's the wrong messaging. Good morning to you and your team, says Ruth Baker. Do you know Ruth Baker?
No.
She says, I would just like to say it was so worthwhile getting up this morning to see that amazingly beautiful, lovely face next to you.
Well,
they don't know you like I do. Morning, Martin. Most people on PIP under 25 years have learnt to scam the system, I'm afraid, he says, from their scamming parents who've been on it for years and willingly show them the ropes, and that's the problem with PIP. Cheers, Martin of Swalcliffe in Whitstable. The problem is when anybody says anything like that, they go, oh, you're being outrageous. He was asked by Kearnsberg Burnham, I accept there's millions of genuine people and I'm happy to pay my tax, but why will no Labour politician go, there are people scamming? Because the left wing would absolutely... they'd go nuts with him, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. And look, one of the things that he has done, to be fair, which is the right thing, so is getting that 20% off the hospitality sector, so taking that away. But that was only righting the wrongs of Rachel Reeves, who increased business rates and national insurance contribution. Rachel Reeves, remember?
I'm going to miss Richard III, aren't you?
Rachel Thieves.
Claire from accounts. Oh, why was there Claire? Sorry.
Yeah,
Rachel from accounts.
Who knows what was on her CV?
Good morning, both. Andy Burnham is a total nothing of a person, prepared to be screwed over even more by this meaningless moron. We didn't vote for him. He's an unelected Prime Minister with no manifesto that will continue the ruination of my once great country. We don't want more lies. We want an election so we can finally get someone in number 10 that talks our language, says Sean. You'll love this. The coup. I think this is fascinating. Bill. The coup. All the shady details coming out now then, Jez. What fortuitous timing. MP quits, Defence Secretary resigns, office space chosen and released for letting, by-election called, office space let, by-election won, office space kitted out, buses painted, Burnham becomes Prime Minister, all planned well in advance. Banana Republic.
Well, absolutely, because, not quite Banana Republic, but, you get the sentiment, because we're now hearing these announcements one a day from the Prime Minister, who is telling us one thing, so he'll keep all those policies within the fiscal rules that have been set. He won't call an early general election. He ruled that out on Laura Kuenssberg's interview we have a parliamentary system and the public...
Parliamentary system, you suddenly went French there. Hello.
Ooh la la. And as far as it goes. And he'll keep to the spirit of the Labour manifesto. However, all of the announcements he's making is not within the manifesto, and it's totally... So we're on a bit of a collision course here, but something has riled you up.
It's not riled me up. Push record. I'm gonna play this all morning. Charlie Rowley, listen to this.
Yeah.
This is from Richard. Jez, I'm an alarm clock Brit working this morning from 2 a.m. I decided recently to apply just to see how it works online for PIP, although there was absolutely nothing wrong with me. I found out yesterday that my application has been successful and I'm going to be paid £170 a month. Now, I'm a decent guy. I'm going to call them, refuse payment and tell them what I was doing. I've never had to talk to one single bloody person during the process. And ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are listening in the United Kingdom, that is exactly what's wrong with our benefit system. I am sick to death of hearing about people saying if you try and stop people getting money, you're going to affect... No, we'll say it again and again. The genuine who need it, that's what the system was for. That's what we're all happy to pay for. He's just proven you can game this system to £170 a month when you've got bugger all wrong with you. That is what Burnham should be doing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Wow.
There's no way that somebody should be able to just go online and claim without having any kind of face-to-face contact with someone, without any kind of assessment, But if you dare say, as the, I don't want to keep talking about the Tories, and you're right, Ian Duncan Smith was, when he was Welfare Secretary, got this absolutely right. People have got to. It's common sense. If you're applying for welfare, if you're applying for a state benefit because you cannot work, you have to be assessed physically.
Oh, well, now they say because of COVID you don't have to. There's bloody ridiculous form filling to get that. That's outrageous.
Well, exactly. And people complain that, how awful it is to go through another assessment or to meet a doctor. Well, what do you expect?
It's awful to go to an assessment.
Yeah.
Try getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning like Richard for crying. Oh, exactly. My God, that's got me. Oh, Charlie, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Morning, Charlie. It's Charlie and George and Darren on our way again, helping to pay that welfare bill. Zach Polanski, sorry, Dave Piano Teeth, reposted the T-shirt, Nigel Farage. You won't hear nothing about it, as you don't with Bob Villan, death to the IVF, but if you're Lucy Conley, you're going to get a bit of bird. Have a nice day, everybody.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 20 to 7. I said, is Derris our next voice note? And he went, yeah, because in Botswana. What a large reach we've got this morning. Morning, Darius.
Morning, Jez and Charlie. This is Dallas out in Botswana. Just to lighten the mood a bit and take the focus away from that man from, oh, where is he from? I'm not sure. Oh, was it Manchester? Ah, dear Lord. Are you aware that Hinge and Bracket was a drag act? There was two young guys who used to dress up as two middle-aged spinster ladies. I'm not quite sure what it says about either you or Charlie, but I just thought I'd bring it up and let you know. Anyway, have a great day. Bye.
We're totally aware. We're desperately trying to get a Christmas panto gig, for God's sake. You can see us as the Ugly Sisters.
Oh, no, you can't.
Oh, yes, you can. It's behind you. No change there. 0344 499 1000. Can I just read this from Joe? This, to me, is a really, really interesting and nailed-on text. Morning, Jez and Charlie. When I was a kid in the early 80s, to be on the dole was nothing to be proud of. It was frowned upon somewhat. People wanted to work. Now benefits, so agree with this, has become a lifestyle choice for so many and a badge of honour. It's just getting worse, and I don't think Burnham is the answer. I absolutely go with that. I still believe now, when we were leaving school, you went to work, either apprenticeship, work or college. Now you can decide to go on the dole, and Richard has proven that this morning with That's appalling.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, there was I think, a huge cultural shift. The one thing that Andy Burnham has probably got is, has got something right, although I have a different analysis of it, is going back to the deindustrialisation of the UK. So when Thatcher came in, obviously, she made some pretty big changes in the country. You know, there were some industries, like the mining communities, like in some of our factories, that had to adapt, that had to become more technologically advanced in order for us to survive. Now, those communities do thrive today, but the history of those people that might have had to go on welfare still remains, and it's the idea that the state destroyed those communities, therefore the state owes them something. And that is a mentality that that was there in certain parts of the country that has slowly, over the last 20 years, I would say, more and more people think, oh, well, the state owes me something. I don't like this government. I don't like the Tories. I don't like the coalition government. Oh, that Gordon Brown, busted the economy. I'm just going to sit back and, take. And I think that has just only grown because we haven't had a leader brave enough, bold enough, big enough, as you say, to say, no, that's not acceptable. No, there are jobs available. No, we are going to support our business community. We're not going to raise taxes on them because you can go and get a job. Business will provide the jobs. It's not the state. It's there available. There's the training placements. We've got the right education system in place. Go and do it.
But this is the point, isn't it? The very concept in, I guess, both of our minds, anybody with a reasonable amount of brain cells would be, I'm really happy to be part of and to pay into a system that helps those who cannot help themselves. But if you are expected to fund the feckless, to make a decision to do nothing, that in the end is going to cause huge, huge consternation. This is frightening. This is Debbie in Red Hill. On the basis of Richard, who contacted the show and said, I don't need it, but I thought I'd as a joke, and I managed to be passed for £170 a month for PIP, which is ridiculous. He's not going to take it. This is dreadful. Can I just ask how that gentleman claimed his PIP? Because I have multiple sclerosis and I've been trying to claim PIP since January this year. And I've been refused, now assessment. And on top of that, my husband has cancer. So please can that guy get in touch as to who and why he's been doing. Let's sort that out. I mean, honestly, there's a woman with multiple sclerosis, her husband is ill, she can't get any help, and Richard, no fault of his own, thought he'd try and see whether, in fact, you can scam the system, and you can. That's fundamentally what's wrong, isn't it?
Totally. But that is something that is testament to what is wrong throughout our country. There are people who are in genuine need, maybe, of hotel accommodation. Maybe some of our veterans that have put on that uniform that have served our country. They could do with free hotel accommodation, not people that are coming over in small boats. There are people like that lady that's just texted in and talked about her situation there. She needs the support. And that's why the welfare system is there, which people are happy to work and pay for.
But it's missing genuine people because that Andy Burnham won't accept this. People are gaming the system.
Exactly. And for every one person that gains the system and every one person that chances their arm and tries to fleece the country when they aren't needing it, when they don't deserve it, when they shouldn't have it, you are denying, absolutely right, denying the real people in our society that need that support. And that is the real travesty. It's not saying, oh, people shouldn't have benefits or that we're attacking a particular group of people or you're attacking migrants or you're attacking people on welfare. No, it's about saying Ukrainians that might need to come into this country again, a neighbouring country that we should be helping. They need that support over and above some people in a small dinghy that are here to chance their arm because they're economic migrants. They are not refugees.
Well, talking about economic migrants, yesterday Andy Burnham, who started to sort of find gaps between words in his sentence, he stood up and he said, and I quote, in his high-vis jacket, the small boats crisis is working. We are stopping dinghy migrants. It's all very good, despite the fact that since he became Prime Minister, we've had 1,000 migrants coming into this country illegally. Morning, Hev.
Good morning, Jez, and cheerful Charlie. This is Hev from Kent. It's all very well I'm saying, oh, the boats, the numbers are down year on year, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Well, the number of boats might be down, which I don't believe anyways, but let's count the number of people on the boats, not the number of boats, the number of individuals that have crossed. Now that's a different story. That's a different figure altogether, I'm sure.
I love the listeners. They've picked up on the fact that Andy Burnham has now started going, Jez, Charlie, you two idiots have been seduced by Mr T-shirt and lashes. New face, still Labour, and even further left, we are doomed. Lee and Margaret Harbour. No, we haven't. We haven't been seduced by him at all. We've said the optics of his communication skills are infinitely better than Keir Starmer. That pen was better than Starmer, but our job, I genuinely believe our job, because the mainstream media aren't doing it, the Mail's doing a bit of it, the Sun, the rest of them, well, no. We have to question where the money's coming from. You know, yesterday, I'm going to go back to if you're just tuning in. Yesterday, he said, I want to get kids back into apprenticeships. I believe that not every kid should go to universities. I almost was waiting for him to say there are too many courses in too many universities, and I was supportive. Turns out this morning that actually he's going to say to families on benefits, if you get your kid to agree to do an apprenticeship, we'll give you $4,500. No, I'll tell you what, right? Your kid's going to be forced to go and do an apprenticeship or a training course, or he's not getting any money. And you lot are not getting any money either. I'm not going to give you $4,500. I want to know what you're going to give me in return.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, again, you know, the tough choices that this country's got to make, or the tough choices the Prime Minister's got to make, because there are some difficult decisions that this country faces. You want someone to step up to the plate and actually take... Look, he's not going to be challenged by his backbenchers. He can't. The Labour Party will not get rid of another Prime Minister between now and the next general election.
I completely agree.
So he has got the perfect opportunity to say, look, you have had 7 Prime Ministers in just over 10 years. They've all failed in some way or another. I'm actually now going to give this country the hard message that it needs. I'm going to tackle the difficult
Completely agree with you.
And it's not going to be pretty, but I'm actually going to be the one to do this. And in a few years' time, I'll set out my plan before that, but you can see the direction of travel, and then he'll go to the country for a general election. But at the minute, it's all handing out sweets, as you say, softening us up for what will be an almighty bill down the line.
100%. Craig, good morning.
Once in a while, I have to drive to Sheffield and park up in the city centre to go to my office, and I see people walking up and down the Moore shopping centre there, often just either dragging or lifting a crutch or pair of crutches off the ground. And to me, they seem to be walking, you know, as normally as you or I would. I reckon that they're out and about with their crutch to support their PIP claims, you know, so they can maximise their UC, maximise their PIP. Probably they have a mobility car parked up in the car park that I have to park in as well. And I reckon it's just a prop.
I've told the story before on the show. I'm not ashamed of it. I've been doing the Jeremy Kyle show for 3 months. There's a story on stage. I don't really understand what I'm doing anyway. There's lots of people arguing, and every time anybody opens their gob, they're talking about the mother. In the break, I go, where's the mother? Is she come? Oh, no, she's in the audience. So I go to her in the audience. She's got a stick. I said, why aren't you on stage? She said, oh, I'll lose my disability benefits if I'm seen walking, love. That was 20 years ago. Jez, I'm being serious. Nobody wanted to be on the dole in the 80s, Jez, because they didn't get all the extra benefits they do today, says Gaz in Scunthorpe. Jez, is Charlie saying a lot because he's setting himself up to be the next mayor of London or Great Britain or something, says Paul in Dorset?
What a good idea. Do you not think?
Not really. I don't really want you getting the limelight. I think I'd be devastated. What would I do? Would I be your chief of staff?
Oh, no. You'd have a...
if you were mayor, what would you make me?
Oh, you could... head of
Comms, head of comms.
Head of comms, I heard there.
The gentleman's an arse. Sorry, remove it. You can't say that. Yes, I can. He's an arse. Jez, good morning. Do you remember in the 70s we had industry that employed huge numbers but had to be state subsidised? It was decided this was wrong. Would it maybe be better carry on state subsidies but keep people employed, says Louise in Ipswich. Who knew? Donald, not that one, he's in Bridgend, is it? Oh, he's disappeared. Oh, yeah. Talk, Jez, morning, Charlie. I know a lad who has a full-time job and works really hard. He's a nice lad. However, he gets £700 a month, Pip, as well, because he's been diagnosed with autism. I just, honestly, there are people with autism that can't work. There are people with real behavioural problems that aren't getting the support, and yet... Oh, this makes sense. Dave's in Swindon. Have you been to Swindon?
I have, yes.
Yeah, that was the wedding speech that didn't go down too well. My daughter got married in Swindon. Oh. I'm not going to tell you on air. Charlie, reference to your text about the gentleman getting PIP and £170 a month, you can actually get £306 a month, says Dave in Swindon. I mean, how bad is it that everybody knows how to game the system? Jackie Gartside, I am furious this morning and ready to burst a gasket. Is it burst a gasket or blow a head gasket? I don't know. This is not taxation, it's robbery. We don't need new taxes, we need government to spend less. Good idea. Paul has sussed this out. He says, I think Burnham's obsession to take the UK back to the 70s will lead to strikes, inflation at 25%, no growth blackouts and 3-day working weeks, which is why, he says, in this frightening world, I've moved to Spain. Good man. Morning to Lee in Market Harborough. Oh, yes, we've done that. Nicholas in Norfolk. Burnham said he was going to do politics differently by being willing to work more collaboratively with others. You try to say that. And I said at the time the test would be how he acted towards reform. He's just failed that test by inviting the Tories and Ed Davies Lib Dems to meet to discuss social care, but ignoring reform. The Uni Party is clearly in full flow, behaving like children, ignoring the party that 4 million voted for in 24. It is disrespectful to the extreme. Dave's in Aberdeen. Morning, JK. The only thing that stops the boats is the weather. It's true, isn't it?
Well, it has a huge part to play, obviously, when the weather is good and the waters are calmer.
Do you get seasick, by the way?
I don't know.
Do you get sick when you go up and down?
I think...
Surrounded by rubber?
I think I manage. I think I'd cope.
Zoe's in Lancashire. I'm sorry, but this looks like a setup between French border force and the UK border force. This was the shots fired yesterday. Well, Chris Philp, who's on the show in a minute, the Shadow Home Secretary, was on about France are the last in line for human trafficking in this disgusting illegal migrant mission. Wouldn't be surprised if the UK are part of this game too, because that's what all this is being treated, like a bloody game. Oh, yes, sorry. We've decided... Oh, we're going to play a clip now. Very important. Zach Polanski, who's come under fire for, well, really not apologising for his social media post that threatens Nigel Farage with the guillotine. It's all this T-shirt. This is him refusing about 73 times to apologise, because Zach's an important political figure.
Do you want to take this opportunity to apologise to Nigel Farage?
Well, if I'd done it deliberately, I'd be apologising, but because this was a mistake, I think the important thing is that I point out it's a mistake, that I also make sure that I condemn political violence, and also, crucially, I make a commitment to be better on my social media.
OK. Do you want to apologise then or not?
No. The reason for that is because Nigel Farage, when I posted this, or when the person posted it, it got less than 1,000 likes. Nigel Farage then took it, cropped it, so it made it look like I posted it, which I think was fundamentally dishonest. It's now had 3.2 million views. So actually, this whole conversation has been seen more because Nigel Farage, Lee Youssef, and I think Richard Tice posted it. So I'm accepting my responsibility in that I shouldn't have accepted that collaboration. I'm accepting that we all need to condemn political violence. But I also think the reporting to the police, the ramping up of the language to say this is incitement to murder me, feels like that's also putting me in a dangerous spot.
Charlie?
Well, if he really believes what he's saying, which I'm no reason to not believe what
I don't believe what he's saying at all.
But he's in his own world. Of course you apologise. If you're saying I've made a mistake, that usually is followed then by an apology. To say, look, I made a mistake, it shouldn't have been reposted, and I'm sorry that we reposted it. However...
he is everything I hate about the left. There's one rule for them and one rule for the other. I am not indiscriminately sticking up for Nigel Farage, but the Reform Party leader and the party as a whole had lost Anne Widdecombe to the most horrendous murder 3 weeks ago, and that unelected, it's not an MP, and the London Assembly should censor that. And he says, oh, the Post collaboratively, blah, blah, blah. No, you liked something, whether it's bad social media work or not. people have lost a lot by doing things. Lucy Connolly and others. Who does? I can't have him at all, mate.
No, absolutely.
He's trying to hypnotise us with his words.
Because if it was the other way around, think about it. You know, they would be the first to call for an apology and say how terrible and nasty, whether it's somebody on the right of our political debate, you know, how terrible that person is. Of course, they demand an apology, and yet they won't do it because it's Nigel or because it's somebody on the right. You know, it is one rule for them. It's one rule for everybody else because they are, you know, the gentle, kinder, you know, style of politics on the left. That's how they. That's what they tell us.
I think those on the left are the divisive lot. I think they harbour. I think they hoover up any activist that argues the toss about anything from Gaza to wherever else. I don't think they talk about issues in this country. I think they make it overtly political and make it all about trying to point score. Sorry. A couple of minutes. You've got to go. Are you going out there to have a chat with the boys till the sausages arrive at 8?
I might do. 7:30.
7:30 the canteen opens. She likes the breakfast.
But I might be on porridge now. I might try and lose a little bit of weight.
I noticed you put on a few pounds, haven't you? You're going to get in that panto costume. You've got to go on a diet.
Quite right. Those stockings won't fill themselves.
Oh, God. Christine, I had 3 jobs in my first marriage to keep us out of debt. There were families not working on benefits then. They got everything. That was in the 70s. I'm furious. There are 5 houses across from where I live and all on benefits, and they all go on holidays together 3 or 4 times a year. I work bloody nights, says Ross, and I can't even afford to go on holiday. That's the point about the benefit system, isn't it?
Oh, totally. And that exactly sums it up. There are people that work 2 or 3, 4 jobs just to make ends meet. There are people that working from 2 a.m. that someone else texted earlier on to Angry Rob that in his, you know, and Charlie and George in their van. These are the alarm clock Brits. These are the people that are doing the hard graft, the hard yards.
For what?
For what, exactly? And
for what? To be on the edge of debt, to be seen to be doing the right thing. We had that text from Richard. I'm going to replay that clip. I mean, he actually, later on, he actually doesn't need it, but he tried to get PIP and he was awarded £170 a month. He doesn't want it, and yet people with genuine concerns are missing out. There's an imbalance, right? There's an imbalance that's been foisted upon us by the left, by this, oh, it'll be all right if we give everybody everything. And we've been caught short. We need to face up to it. What a lovely hour. Are you back this week? Because I'm doing Friday. Is she back? Are you doing Friday?
I'll clear the diary.
Oh, you clear the diary or the decks. Almost 7 o'clock, we're live across the UK. We've got some great guests next hour. Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, was the man who... there were French gunshots when he was doing a piece to camera on a boat yesterday. We'll hear about that. Ian Duncan Smith as well, the man who, when he was Work and Pension Secretary, made a massive difference to benefits. I would love to hear that. And the legend that is Nigel Evans, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons. All that between 7 and 8 on The Breakfast Show that allows your views on the day news to be heard. Don't forget, by the way, we want you involved. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222 and an 8-second final word from Charlie.
Well, it's been a great morning so far, and I'm looking forward to coming back on Friday. But, you know, Dallas Burnham.
News at 7 next.
My intention to run for a 4th term
as President of the United States. I won 3 times, did very well the second time, by the way. It's a rigged election, but we don't have to talk about it.
It's an entire community in their heads, and he knows how to push it and literally send them off. I thought he was actually more restrained last night than we've seen in just his regular speeches. I mean, he's got comedic timing. He is the funniest president we've ever had, and man, he was playing it on all fours last night.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk. Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back or welcome along. Just gone 7 o'clock. What is it? Wednesday, the 29th of July. We're live across the UK. Talk breakfast. To Talk, of course, the home of common sense and the place where alarm clock Brits' views on the day's news are always welcome. 0344 499 1000. You can call. You can leave that all-important voice note. You can text 87222. The main news that you're waking up to is that finally, day 9, our new Prime Minister, the unelected Andy Burnham, the man with no mandate, has finally addressed the #1 thing that you and most people in the United Kingdom consider to be the most important, which is how we're going to stop hordes of illegal young men who are not escaping war-torn countries, haven't brought their wives and children, but are coming on illegal boats to claim benefits so that they can laugh at the rest of the United Kingdom who are working for a living. He said yesterday, and I quote, well, actually, let's play the clip, because he says it's working. This is Andy Burnham yesterday.
Do you have a plan to tackle small boat prices?
The Home Secretary has brought forward a very rigorous plan in relation to this, and let's remember, of course, the numbers can fluctuate, but overall, boat crossings are down quite significantly year on year, so that does suggest that the plan is working. Of course, there has to be rigorous checks so that people are not put through into a situation where they are out without the relevant safeguards, and absolutely I can give you a commitment that that is the clear instruction that I am giving, that all relevant and necessary checks must be done.
Now, whether people like it or not, this show is not set up to just criticise. I believe his optics are better than his predecessor, but this show should be set up to say, where's the money going to come from? I look at that man being asked the one question that all politicians should be concentrating on right now, and he looks terrified, right? In 2026, you can see the micro tracker, 13,320 illegals have arrived. Since Andy Burnham became Prime Minister, what did he just say? It's working. 1,000 migrants are still coming into this country, and the left won't have it. They are taking advantage of a system that has no checks, that doesn't allow them to be stopped and gives them benefits, and that's fundamentally wrong. Yesterday, some astonishing footage. The Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp was in the Channel to witness. He was doing an interview. He was witness a mega dinghy being escorted by the French, and all of a sudden he heard gunshots from a French warship. Have a watch. This is Chris Philp.
Mean that anyone who did cross the Channel and arrive in Dover could be immediately deported within around about a week.
Give that a second. He's just dragging a line to it.
Is that a warning shot towards us? I don't know.
That's what I was trying to work out.
Okay.
As far as I know, if you're having a live firing exercise, then that's always announced on the VHF to all the vessels in the vicinity, and they actually will give the position of where that's going to take place. And I didn't hear there's been nothing announced on the VHF from what we've heard this morning. We've been out since 6 o'clock.
Yeah. So it sounds like it might have been an effort to intimidate us.
It could well have been. It might have just been a little bit of a warning shot, and maybe just trying a bit of show of force or something.
Delighted to say that Chris Philp, Shadow Home Secretary, now joins me live from northern France. Chris, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
I mean, unbelievable. Let's start with that moment for you. Did you, I mean, gunshots, do you believe they were aimed at you because you were doing an interview? What do you think? What was the reality?
The French officers could clearly see we were conducting an interview on the back of the fishing boat. They sailed extremely close to us and started firing gunshots, 11 live rounds. We could see the bullets hitting the water behind our boat. They weren't firing before their approach. They weren't firing afterwards. There was no notification of any kind of training exercise. So it did seem to me to be an effort to intimidate us.
The thing that I find, and I should say alarm clock Brits find so frustrating, Chris, and this is why I wanted you on this morning. Yesterday, finally, the unelected Messiah of Manchester stood up and said to consummate fury from most of us that Labour's plan to stop dinghy migrants is working. This, Chris, despite the fact that 1,000 illegal migrants have still come into this country in the last 9 days since he became Prime Minister. I want to ask you this question. Why is there seemingly, with repeated governments, repeated Home Secretaries, this inability, this... Is it a lack of will? Is it fear? I see fear in Andy Burnham's eyes when he's asked, why can't politicians go, we are not talking about people who are leaving war-torn countries, we're talking about unvetted men coming into our country, and I, the Home Secretary, am going to finally damn well do something about it. Why doesn't that happen, Chris?
Well, it's certainly what should happen. I mean, just a couple of facts first. The reason why migrant numbers are down a bit this year is because of the weather. I spoke to a skipper yesterday about that who was very clear. It's the weather. It's not Shabana Mahmood's terrible deal that involves handing over £500 million of our money. You're quite right. France is a safe country. Nobody needs to flee France. This crisis is going on as we speak. Yesterday on the Channel, I witnessed a boat with about 100 illegal immigrants setting off from France. The French authorities did nothing to stop it, and that boat arrived in UK waters at about midnight, and those illegal immigrants are probably now in a hotel. It's that boat there that's on your screen, which I filmed yesterday. Today is going to be even worse. I'm on the ground in northern France right now. I've just, in the last 10 minutes, been into a camp of illegal migrants, mainly Eritreans, just up this road behind me. The beach is in the other direction, about 200 metres, and they are preparing to get a small boat sometime later on today. We understand there are also about 50 illegal immigrants hidden in the dunes behind me, also waiting to cross. We understand there are potentially 7 boats crossing the Channel already today, likely carrying at least 500 illegal immigrants, and by the time the day is over, it could even be 1,000 illegal immigrants who have crossed today. So for Andy Burnham to claim the problem is solved is frankly ridiculous.
It is utterly ridiculous, and I think, you know, what I want to hear from any politician, and I'm delighted you're joining us, is that all the platitudes in the world. Just explain to me why you think somebody hasn't in the past gone, right, OK, we're going to put the Navy in the Channel. We're not going to let people set foot in this country until they've got paperwork, and then we'll lay out the red carpet. But for those who are patently trying to take advantage of a soft system, you're not going to get this. We're going to put our foot down for the best reasons, which is the British public are struggling with a cost of living crisis, and the word fairness every day, Chris, comes back again and again to me. What would a Tory government do right now if you took power this morning? Home Secretary, what are you doing?
Well, we would firstly leave the ECHR, and that would enable us to deport every illegal immigrant, like the one that just walked past me just now, within a week of arrival, back to their country of origin, if that's possible, or a safe third country like Rwanda, if not. No court case, no asylum claim, no modern slavery claim, no legal aid, no hotels, no nothing. And if illegal immigrants entering the United Kingdom were deported within a week of arrival in that way, then they wouldn't bother to cross in the first place. The reason that illegal immigrant that walked past me just now wants to get on a boat later on today is he knows that if he gets to the UK, he'll be put up in a hotel, and he has a 95% chance of staying in the UK. That's why he's about to get on a boat later on today. If instead he knew he'd get deported, then he wouldn't be crossing the Channel in this dangerous and illegal way. So that's what a Conservative government will do.
Would you put the Navy in the Channel?
I think we need to just deport the immigrants who arrive, to be honest, and then quickly it'll stop. If, you know, when Australia did that about 13 years ago, it basically, the crossing stopped within about 2 months. So rapid deportation, and then they won't even bother attempting the crossing in the first place.
Do you believe Burnham? I mean, I don't want to make it personal. I think he looked terrified when he was asked about the boat crisis, and people like that will always say, oh, you know, it's difficult, you know, there is a will, but there isn't a way. You're talking about a way. As a taxpayer, taxpayer, forget you're a politician for a moment, as a taxpayer, right, you're stood on a beach in northern France seeing men who have no right to come to this country, willingly knowing that they're going to get there. How do you, as a taxpayer, and my listeners, how do you feel about that? It's a con, isn't it?
I feel very angry because I know people up and down the country get up early. This morning will have got up early to go to work, work hard, pay their taxes, and for that money to then be spent on hotels for illegal immigrants, benefits for illegal immigrants. Many of the people, I just went to this migrant camp 10 minutes ago. They don't speak English. They're not going to be working productively. They're not doctors and engineers, I'm afraid to say. The taxpayers are going to be subsidising them for many, many years to come. And it makes me very, very angry that we're getting exploited in that way.
You know, the French, you brought it up at the beginning, it's a very relevant point. We give £500 million a year to the French. I don't know whether it's supposed to be some cooperation deal. All I ever see is videos, yours included, but they seem to wave migrants off. I mean, I thought they were supposed to be part of the detaining process. You'd presumably cancel that money in a heartbeat, wouldn't you?
That's right. If the French don't prevent these crossings, we should not be paying that money at all. The Belgians, by the way, do a very good job. The Belgians, for example, do stop boats at sea, whereas the French don't. But I'm going to be interested to see what happens on this beach later on today. I'm looking at a French gendarme right now. And we'll see when these illegal immigrants attempt a crossing in the hours ahead. We'll see what those gendarmes do. But what I saw yesterday when I was at sea was the French forces, both on land and at sea, did not make any attempt to stop the illegal migrant crossing.
What's been the reaction to you there, filming and talking? We saw the guns fired by the warship. What do the migrants, if they can speak English, say to you? What do the gendarmes say to you? What's the feeling, that England's a soft touch?
Yeah, well, I mean, the immigrants didn't speak a lot of English. They'd obviously been by the people smugglers to hide their faces. But it was clear they're in France already, and they have decided that the United Kingdom is a softer touch than France because France doesn't give them hotels and so on and so forth. And that is why they're currently, the ones I just spoke to a few minutes ago, are hiding in woodland, waiting to get on a dinghy because they think they get a better deal in the UK than they get in France. And all of that is funded by taxpayers, which I think is outrageous.
It's astonishing to speak to you and see those pictures. If you are listening on the radio, Chris, I mean, I think it's great work. How long are you there for, buddy?
We're going to be leaving at the end of today, I think. We've been out on the channel. We did a 12-and-a-half-hour day on the channel yesterday. We got up at 4 o'clock this morning, and we got on this beach here when it was still dark, and we're going to be here until the end of today.
And it brings the reality home for you. I mean, I think this is a great thing for politicians, whatever the party, to actually get out there and see it at first hand. Just final question, seeing migrants hiding in bushes, seeing gendarmes waving boatloads of people, knowing what's happening, has this been an eye-opener for you, pal?
Well, I'm afraid to say I knew this was happening already. It's been well documented, but I wanted to make sure the wider public became aware of this. And in particular, Andy Burnham, the Labour Prime Minister, is in denial. He stood there in that interview you played, claiming that the problem was basically under control. And I'm here in France, seeing with my own eyes that the problem is not under control. And it's important that the public realise that and realise that the Conservatives have a proper plan to fix this, the determination to fix it, but also a properly thought-out plan as well.
Chris Philp, really, really appreciate your time this morning. Chris Philp live from a beach in northern France, Shadow Home Secretary. That footage you saw yesterday, warning gunshots fired from a French warship as he was doing an interview, looking at boats, looking at this mega boat and bringing people in. There he is on a beach just now. He was saying migrants hiding in bushes, nobody speaking English, French gendarme, we're paying half £500 million to just waving people through. That, right, I'm just going to be really honest. I mean, I've been massively frustrated with the Tory party, as you know, at the end of the... That is exactly what a politician needs to do. That is fantastic footage, and that is an eye-opener. And there'll be cynics who'll go, yeah, but why didn't the Tories say they were going to leave the ECHR years ago? Maybe it's a new brush. Will it be easy to leave the ECHR? Nigel Farage has been saying that for years. But it is really important, isn't it, to just bring it home to put you guys, you know, you're working, you're in the van, you're on the school, and all sorts of stuff. Look at it. Unbelievable. And the left will go, these poor people are escaping war-torn countries. No, they're not. They're climbing on a dinghy because they know this country is going to wipe their backsides. Talking of which, the other big discussion today is not just small boats, it's benefits. I mean, there are some astonishing figures coming out, right? Yesterday, Burnham went, listen, I think too many kids go to university. And I went, yeah. And he said, I think we should be getting kids into apprenticeship. And we went, yeah. Great piece on the front of the Mail this morning. Let's strip it down, shall we, Mr. Burnham? He's basically going to say, this is genuinely true, I can't believe I'm saying this, he's going to say to families who have all been on benefits long term, you know your son's 18, 16, whatever, get him to go on an apprenticeship, and if you do, I'll give you £4,500 of tax-free money to use on benefits. Not to people who are working. I would respectfully suggest that I would be saying to those parents, why don't you set a bloody example and get off your backside and get a job, which might prove to your son or daughter they have to do the same. Morning, Matt.
Morning, Jezza. Matt from Doncaster. Yet again, another leader that wants to appease the scroungers. Take away their benefits and make sure they go out and do a day's work. And moreover, if you want to sort out the benefit system, stop paying these bloody migrants to come here and scrounge off our benefit system. Sorry for swearing, but it just absolutely boils me. Have a good day. I'll try and calm down.
It boils me too, Matt, and I would love, right now, I know we're never going to get it, to in that chair, to be one of those, you know, do-gooding left-wingers who will look at that and go, these are... I'd like to forensically say, let's just go back over that interview. There are a bunch of Eritrean men who are not escaping a war-torn country. Right. They haven't got their wives and children with them. Fact. They're hiding in bushes. Fact. We're paying France £500 million to do bugger all. Fact. We're going to allow them to come to this country unvetted, they might be anybody, and give them benefits. Fact. So, Mr. or Mrs. Lefty, how do you explain to alarm clock Britain that that is fair? Because it's not fair. It's fundamentally wrong. And people go, oh, you go on about this every day. Yes, I do. Because the message we're putting out nowadays is don't you worry about. Honestly, don't get up early. Why would you work, pay tax, not break the law? It's got that bad. Somebody texted earlier and went, when I was a kid growing up, being on the dole wasn't it wasn't a badge of honour. It brought shame on you. So you grafted. I don't care how old you are. You haven't got it in you, but then think about it. They talk about NEETs. They say it's the system. I would respectfully suggest it might well be the system. It might well be attitude. There are long-term people who have been unemployed, who are playing the system, who have no intention of working, and that waters itself down through families and through society. I want a politician, as I've said all bloody morning, that stands up and goes, do you know what? Do you know what? Sorry, we'll do whatever we can, but you've got to help yourself. I'm not going to wipe your backside and make your life easy, but how the hell are we ever going to get a politician doing that when we've got politicians wiping the backside of anybody who arrives here on a boat? Keith's in Nottingham. So the French Navy have opened fire on a boat in the Channel, and it would appear that the UK government do nothing. Let's be honest, it may as well have been the Russian Navy, because this Labour lot won't do diddly. This is, honestly, this is so brilliant, you guys. Ben's in Manchester. We have normalised a few hundred illegal migrants coming over each day. What will happen if they start arriving in their thousands? When does it become an actual military matter? 1,000 a day, 3,000 a day, 5,000 a day? I'll tell you one thing, Ben in Manchester, no longer are people prepared to accept, oh, they're doctors. You know those people hiding in bushes behind Chris Philp this morning? They're not doctors and surgeons. They're not lawyers. I'm sorry, they're illegal economic migrants who are doing one thing and one thing only, and that is to laugh at a country and laugh at a system that will wipe their arse to the detriment of you and me, the taxpayer. That's what's wrong with this country. Talk breakfast.
They are launching a legal bid to stop crime statistics linked to nationality from being released. And the Ministry of Justice are so desperate to make sure that we do not know the truth about just how bad it is when it comes to migrant crime, that they have decided, even though they didn't have money to do the FOI request, that they have got money to launch a legal bid.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back in the middle of a, excuse me, coughing fit. 7:22, it's Wednesday morning. You would talk, the home of common sense. And the home of you, the alarm clock Brit, will argue forever to do right by you. A great piece of footage there from Chris Philp. Shadow Home Secretary on the shores of northern France. Illegal migrants that don't speak English, hidden in bushes, waiting to jump onto boats, to come here and to end up tonight in a 4-star hotel. Yesterday, you'll see the footage on screen now. He was being interviewed for a piece, and there was gunshot from a French vessel. And Big Mark, who's a fantastic man, works in the show, just made a really salient point during the ad break. So they can fire at a politician who's doing a TV interview, but they can't fire warning shots at illegal migrants getting into rubber dinghies that we're paying them 500 million quid a year for. I work in the job centre, Kyle, and have to issue benefit... Oh, we'll do that in a minute. Firing shots at a British boat in the Channel. What happened to international law, says Linda in Stalybridge. I couldn't agree more. Why not stop paying France for a service? 500 million. They failed to provide and invested in our own border defence. Surely that's a no-brainer. Angela. That's common sense. Don't be ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense. James, good morning.
Morning, Jez. James from Kent. So I just listened to that speech from Burnham you played about the vocals. Does anyone else notice? I don't know if you've noticed, right? Whenever any politician talks about it, they always talk about we are doing our best to make sure that people aren't being put at risk. We're doing our best to make sure that these unsafe journeys aren't happening. We're doing our best to make sure the safety of these... At no point does any of them actually say, we're trying to stop the boats because these people are breaking the law and now taking the mickey out of us.
The problem is, and I agree with you absolutely, James, you and I would be viewed as, oh, that's right-wing, that's very unfair. What about these poor Eritrean migrants who have fled? Yeah, OK. So there are countries in the world that are worse off than the United Kingdom, but I'll say this to the left again. Try telling a Jams just about managing a young family where there are problems paying bills, breaking even, just eating. Oh, no, let's look after everybody else. That something's got to change. It's fundamentally bloody wrong. You are waking up to Talk Breakfast where the main two subjects, quite simply, small boats. Andy Burnham, day 10 yesterday, fluttered the old eyelashes and came and said, our plan on small boats... Should we just play this again? Because this is Andy Burnham, day 9, and I welcomed a change from Starmer. I think his comms are very good. But this is him when finally confronted with what you're going to do about the boats, Andy. Have a watch.
Do you have a plan to tackle small boat vessels?
The Home Secretary has brought forward a very rigorous plan in relation to this. And let's remember, of course, the numbers can fluctuate, but overall, boat crossings are down quite significantly year on year. So that does suggest that the plan is working. Of course, there has to be rigorous checks so that people are not put through into a situation where they are out without the relevant safeguards. And absolutely, I can give you a commitment that that is the clear instruction that I am giving, that all relevant and necessary checks must be done.
I don't care who you are, and this isn't anti-Andy Burnham. He looks terrified to me. He looks unsure. He looks because it is the one question, the one thing that a lot of people in this country are interested in. Let me take Mr. Burnham on. It's working, is it, Andy? 13,320 migrants since the 1st of January. The reason boat numbers might be down, by the way, is we've had the most extraordinary weather. But you've had 1,000 come into this country, my friend, since you became Prime Minister. It's typical, isn't it? Always when I cough. Let's say a very good morning to a man who will tell it as it is, the former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, who now works in a kitchen somewhere in a Little Chef on the North Ems. No, he doesn't. Where are you today, Nigel Evans? Are you at home?
I'm staying with Colonel Bob, as you know, so I'm in Bromley and Kent.
All over the place. You're like a sort of a nomad. You're always somewhere else. You never go home, man. I want to make too much of it. Listen, I've got a sore throat.
Correct you, by the way, Jeremy. You're saying 500 million. You've forgotten the bonus. They're getting a £150 million bonus on top of the 500 million.
What for?
Well, for waving off the illegal immigrants from the shores of northern France to the United Kingdom. So they're getting paid extra money for that. And by the way, I listened very carefully to what Andy Burnham just said in that interview about illegal immigrants coming into the UK, and it was nothing more than word salad. It was all over the place. It actually was incoherent. It didn't mean anything.
Well, we haven't spoken this week. I genuinely, hand on heart, wanted Starmer out, and I genuinely, like you, whatever my political persuasion, want my Prime Minister to be convicted, to be full of conviction, to lay out. I thought the first few days were great. My job is to then say, how are you going to pay for it? That interview, I'm starting to think he's out of his depth. He couldn't answer the question. It was, The facts are wrong. Boat crossings and numbers are not down. We don't know what your plan is. We hear a succession of leaders and Home Secretaries say, this is disgusting. Great piece from Chris Philp there. Absolutely fantastic. On the shores in northern France saying, illegal migrants hidden in bushes, people knowing they're going to be in a 4-star hotel tonight, the French firing gunshots. I don't know how to put this politely, but the distinct feeling that I have as a punter, my dear friend Nigel, is that we're having the taken out of us by almost everybody. Illegal migrants, the French. Great Britain was never a laughing stock. I fear it's becoming that.
Yeah, we are asking for a Prime Minister with conviction, and at least he did put somebody with a conviction in his cabinet, so you've got that. But the bleeding reality, Jeremy, is that we're waiting for a solution to the problem that everybody in the United Kingdom knows is costing us billions of pounds. He wants to know how he's going to pay for social care. This is going to be the big announcement of today. And yet we are spending well more than 8 billion a year on all the illegal immigrants that have come in. We had 165 come in last week on one boat. We don't know what the Prime Minister is going to do about that, but we do know that he prefers pork scratchings to scampi fries.
I completely agree.
His PR is absolutely perfect. We know that the veneer of government is what he's specialising in. He's prepared to pay more for people to do his TikToks than he is for people to head up cybersecurity in the United Kingdom. We know where his priorities are, and it's certainly not stopping the boats, and they are wading in. I mean, it was great to see the Shadow Home Secretary there with his baseball cap. But the reality is, and it's not just him, I was watching an interview yesterday with somebody else who said that the gendarmes have approached him several times while he's been videoing illegal immigrants getting onto small boats. They're more interested in stopping people filming the illegals coming towards the United Kingdom than they are stopping those boats. So that's maybe where the bonus is coming in. How many British politicians can they get towards rather than stopping the boats? I mean, for goodness sake, why don't they introduce a law that says it is illegal to bring a small boat like that onto the shores? You know, give a designation where you can't bring a small boat onto into the area of Calais or however large you want to make it.
I think you know, the thing for me, Nigel, is we've talked about the past, and people will say to me on this show, why do you talk about illegal immigration so much? I'll tell you why. Because it's not just there's so many different wrong facets to it. If you allow unvetted men, we know from some of the crimes, horrendous sexual crimes that have been committed, we know that danger is very real. We know that men are economic migrants because they don't bring their wives and children. We know that the lure of a welfare state that wipes their backsides is so great that they will risk death in the Channel. All of this pinpointing entirely a hard-working Brit's view that it's unfair and we're at the back of the queue. I want to ask you something I've asked you before, but I owe it to the listeners. I agree with Chris Philp there. I thought it was a great piece. I agree that we need to leave the ECHR. I think the Tories are still at that point where people will say, why didn't you do more? You'll say there was Rwanda. I'll say it was too slowly implemented. People tell me that politicians across the entire spectrum, Nigel, don't have the will to do this. Why, and is that changing?
It doesn't appear to be changing, does it? Andy Burnham seems to be quite content with what the Home Secretary is delivering. And what she's delivering, as you've just shown, is well over 13,000 people illegally entering the United Kingdom this year alone. I mean, I have said, yes, we need to leave the ECHR. We need to ensure that anybody who enters the United Kingdom on a small boat is found guilty of a crime simply by coming into the United Kingdom illegally. And then they need to be shipped to a third country, and they must be banned from ever entering legally the United Kingdom.
So why? So just explain to me. There he is with all his political capital, forget his party. Why do a succession of prime ministers and home secretaries not see what is glaringly bloody obvious to everybody across this country, and actually what the British people are clamouring for as their own cost of living crisis increase? And I've heard it all before. They go, you don't know what it's like to live. No, I don't in Eritrea, but try telling that to a man and woman who are working 60 hours this week and can't even afford to go out for a pint on Friday because they're paying their taxes, they're paying their bills, and they're living as they see right within the confines of the law. It's a joke.
We are a hugely generous country, Jeremy, and we've always been welcoming to those who are genuine asylum seekers, those fleeing persecution. But the people that we see crossing the channel every day in their hundreds daily are people aged between 18 to 24, 25. They're all men. Most of them are men. They're economic migrants. Yeah. And quite frankly, the United Kingdom cannot cope. There is a system whereby those who are fleeing persecution can enter the United Kingdom legally.
Of course.
It's been pointed out time and time again, France is a safe country. They are leaving...
If you're in Eritrea, Nigel, without wanting to talk over you, you have to cross 7 safe countries until you get here. Nobody is going to convince me that the only reason they end up here is for any other reason that we're as soft as, you know what I'm trying to say, and give all of the stuff that nobody else does. And maybe that's gone on for years, and maybe that's okay. But as the belts tighten in the United Kingdom, as our public services crumble, as our livelihoods are hit with still further taxes, let me play you a voice note that Kristen's just said for you. This is what our audience is beginning to think. Adam, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Another alarm clock Brit here, who's on the road, ready to go and do some graft to go and pay for all these migrants that are coming over. What I wanted to say was, we're an island. We stopped the Spanish Armada, we stopped the Luftwaffe, and now we're being invaded without even a shot being fired. So what amazes me is that no one actually talks about the fact that there's no other explanation for this other than this is a plan. It's a plan to flood our country. No government wants to stop it. Multiple governments have talked about it. So my only conclusion is this is a plan. But why?
Nigel Evans, you can answer that.
Yeah, Adam, it may appear like a plan, but it's not the plan. Certainly not my plan, and it never was when I was in Parliament. The real problem was, of course, and it was very interesting, Jeremy, to see that French boat that was doing the firing very close to where Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, was. If the French can put one of their Navy boats into the channel, why can't the British put some Navy boats into the channel in order
Have we got any?
Well, exactly. But the fact is that why can't we do that to stop these boats coming in, to turn them round? There's no deterrence whatsoever. As far as I can see, we've got the gendarmes waving the illegals off from Calais, and then we have got the British coming in to welcome them in order to then, as Chris Philp said, to put them either into hotels or into barracks in order that they are then going to stay here. I mean, this is absolutely appalling. Part of the problem, Jeremy, and of course the illegals know this, is that the British welfare system is completely broken, hugely generous. We are now spending more on welfare than we're raising in taxes. The country, it's once said, is Britain broken? Well, it's broke. That's for certain. It's financially broke. And all we've got is a government that is able to spend money, but has got no idea how to raise it.
Yeah.
And what the former Labour minister said is that all people say to him is, what taxes are we going to raise so we can pay more money out on welfare?
Well, I have to say, we've talked about the boats. The other big issue, and it's always an issue on this show, is benefits. And I've been really outspoken today because it absolutely boils my blood that any time we talk about doing something about the welfare state, the do-gooders jump up and down, and I get it, and they say, what about the real... Yes, well, here's the thing. If you're disabled, mentally ill, have major problems, I am more than happy to pay tax. But until a government, whether that's Conservative, Tory, Reform, I don't care, until a leader stands up and says, and he was asked this, Burnham, by Kunzberg, and he couldn't answer, are there people taking the out of the system and gaming it? Well, he said there's lots of kids and you know, we need to get them into work. So yesterday he was saying, you know, I want to push apprenticeships. And I thought, yeah, bloody good. I remember YTS and all those things. Turns out today on the front of the Mail, I mean, there it is. He's basically, I mean, I honestly feel like I'm going to implode, Nigel. So his idea on day 9 to get kids to take apprenticeships, and remember the word benefits in this, is to say to a family on benefits, can you please encourage your child, your offspring, to do an apprenticeship so they'll come off benefits? And if you do that, I'll give you £4,500. Now, at the risk of imploding, I think as a country we should be saying, all of you need to get off benefits and give something back to your community. I'm going to make sure we do all we can, but I need a bit of effort from you. We're doing it again. We're wiping people's backsides to the detriment, I have to say, Nigel, of the hard-working Brit, and it infuriates me, pal. Infuriates me.
Well, you've got the problem, Jeremy, that there are some people now who are earning more on benefits than they would if they went out working, so they're going to stay on benefits. That's number one. Number two, if you're going to bribe anybody, how about bribing the millionaires that have left the United Kingdom over the past 5 years? Over 500,000 of them have left the United Kingdom in order to go and live somewhere else, and they've taken their money with them. We need to get these wealthy people back into the United Kingdom, paying their fair share of taxes, but not taxing them until the pips squeak, as one other famous Healy chancellor once said in the 1970s. It is quite ridiculous. In the last 2 years, we've seen more than 16,000 alone leave the United Kingdom and take their money with them. We're incentivizing the wrong people. We're turning on people who are entrepreneurs, people creating jobs, people in the hospitality sector. What did he do the other day, Jeremy? He gave a 20% reduction on business rates to people who've seen their business rates double over the past 12 months. Which means about £1,000 a year to them. At the same time, his predecessor increased national insurance on employers when they said during the general election they wouldn't do so.
Yeah.
They upped the minimum wage, making it very difficult for those on marginal profits to be able to survive. And that's why you see so many pubs closing now. We really have turned on entrepreneurs, the people who grow the economy.
Yeah. And that's so Labour, isn't it? Anybody who's built a business and aspirational, the way we'll look at them is they're horrible. They've made a lot of money. We're going to be punitive, so they're going to leave. I was just thinking, as you were saying, going, so we're basically forcing successful businessmen and women to take their fortunes elsewhere, close their businesses and lose the revenue to the tax man, and yet we're encouraging illegal migrants to come here and we wipe their backsides and give them everything. It's an absolute joke. Listen, I find it so frustrating, and I have to say to all politicians that the mood in this country is not going to get better unless we get a politician, a leader, whatever party, whatever sex, to stand up and say, right, here's what's going on. It's not easy, it's not nice, but we're going to have to make some decisions. I could find 50 billion, right, in a heartbeat. Sorry if I sound harsh. To the 2 million people who are getting benefits who don't deserve it, you're not getting it. I'd close the borders, and I'll tell you something else I'd do. I wouldn't spend 11 billion on foreign aid this year. I could raise 50 billion, build 3 prisons and buy a couple of warships in a heartbeat. But no, no, no. We've got another one who I'm afraid is beginning to sound after day 9 exactly like the last one. Sit in the middle, try and please all the people all the time. That's not leadership. Not at all.
Jeremy, you're the best Prime Minister we never had. I've got to tell you, these policies would absolutely work. I'm expecting the next announcement to be that he's actually now going to ditch that Chagos Islands plan. You remember, we were going to give 35 billion to Mauritius to take one of our countries away from us. It was uncosted, of course, but that's one thing that he'll do. And then, of course, he's going to drill in the North Sea, so he'll get a bit of money coming there. But at the same time, he's making all these... we've had 9 days of spending commitments when we know where that money is coming from. Unless we grow the economy, and that's how you really are going to pay for the things that we really do need to pay for. I mean, we've got more than 1 million people now who are not in education or employment. We've got more than 4 million people claiming personal independence payments. Those are people who should be were acutely sick. Really? Has that number increased so much?
I'm gonna finish our interview by playing you a clip, which I was gonna, because Ian Duncan Smith's on next, and he'll be listening to this and he can respond. I have to tell you, in the 30 years I've done this job, this is unbelievable. And I want to see Nigel Evans' face. This was me reading out a text from Richard, a breakfast show listener, who decided, not that he needed it, to claim PIP to see how easy it was. Listen to this, guys. This is from Richard. Jez, I'm an alarm clock Brit working this morning from 2 a.m. I decided recently to apply, just to see how it works, online for PIP, although there was absolutely nothing wrong with me. I found out yesterday that my application has been successful and I'm going to be paid £170 a month. Now, I'm a decent guy. I'm going to call them, refuse payment and tell them what I was doing. I've never had to talk to one single bloody person during the process. And ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are listening in the United Kingdom, that is exactly what's wrong with our benefit system. It's unbelievable, Nigel, isn't it?
Well, at least that guy is honest, but he has now exposed how easy it is to milk the system. If he was able to do it so easily, could you imagine how many other people? There must be millions of people who are absolutely milking the system. I'm going to be really interested to hear what Ian Duncan Smith has got to say on that, because he was the person who had the guts to reform the universal credit system to ensure that it was absolutely worthwhile.
And he made a difference, Ian. He made a difference in 2 years.
He did. It was absolutely superb. He understood that nobody should be better off out of work on benefits than in work working. And that's what this is all about. This is what Alarm Clock Britain is all about. We're all fed up that people are having to work all the hours God sends to be taxed in order to pay benefits to people who simply do not or should not need them, and billions to illegal immigrants coming into the United Kingdom.
We love you, mate. We so love having you on. We really appreciate the nomad that is Nigel Evans. Thank you very much indeed. 7:45, Ian Duncan Smith on the way. Morning, Rob.
Jezza, young people who are old enough to go to work should work. We shouldn't have to give their family $4,500 to encourage them to go out. Basically, my dad would have just said, what he did say to me, he said, how long are you going to be here? Because I'm not funding you for ages. So if you don't find yourself a job, then you're going to need to find yourself a job, because you're not living here.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. You lot are infuriated this morning. Andy Burnham stood up and said the Labour government's plan to stop the small boats is working, despite the fact that 1,000 boats have come into this country in the last 9 days since he became Prime Minister. You're also infuriated by the fact that he's willing to give £4,500 to the parents, if they're on benefits, of kids just to convince them to go and get an apprenticeship. Let's give you £4,500 to get your kids to do an apprenticeship. No, let's stop all of your bloody benefits and make you work. Morning, Mike.
Hi, Jeremy. Mike in Whitney again. This 500 million that we give the French, did someone word the contract wrong? Are we paying them 500 million to send us criminals? Did we word it wrong? And also, there's a point on the beach there. If you were French and you saw any member of your family stopping criminals leaving your country for the UK, you'd go absolutely nuts, wouldn't you? And I'd like to think if they were leaving Britain for France, our police would escort them as well. You've got to be realistic, haven't you? The French are not going to stop these people, never have, don't want to, aren't going to, but they'll take our money. Of course they will, because we're an absolute nut job of a country, aren't we?
Benefits and small boats. Talk, I lost my job within a week. I had 4 offers. I'm not a skilled worker. I needed a job as I had a mortgage to pay. If you want a job, you will find one. If you don't want a job because you're having your backside wiped, you won't bother, will you, says Jason. Karen, we are all better off on benefits. My friend's family are already grooming their kids on how to claim benefits. This country is bloody finished. Debbie, I work in the job centre, Jez, and have to issue benefits to these losers. How angry do you think I am every single bloody day? Angela, apprenticeships. The benefit of an apprenticeship is gaining work experience, but there's no guarantee a job at the end of it. So all Labour are actually doing is reducing the figures for NEET. Jez, great show, says Dale. This government is not helping me. This might sound selfish, but I work hard. I earn a good salary. Can I afford to get on the property market and away from renting? No. Maybe I should run aground on a dinghy and get a bloody house given to me immediately. Morning, Jez. When I left school, says Tim in Winchester, age 16, my dad kicked me up the arse and told me to find a job, and I did, and I've worked ever since. I would reduce benefits to parents whose kids don't work. Spot on. Let's go to North Yorkshire. Alan, good morning.
Hello there, Jez. Listen, mate, we've got to stop saying that Andy Burnham is a nice bloke. He's not a nice bloke. He's a liar. He's a grifter. He's a cheat. He hasn't got a clue what he's doing, and he keeps telling everyone he's got a plan. I don't want people with a plan. I want people that are going to get off their backsides and do. I can give him a plan, and I bet you could give him a plan.
Yeah.
Right? All we've got to do is get somebody with enough kahunas to get the plan in working condition.
It's so imbalanced to me, Al. I mean, I thought the point that Nigel Evans made is so good. We're saying to anybody who's aspirational, builds a business that's made a few quid and employ people, you can bugger off because we're going to charge you all the money you've got. And we're saying to illegal migrants, we don't know who the hell you are, we don't know where you've been, what you've done and what your history is, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to get you over here and put you in a hotel and wipe your backside and make you feel like you're part of Great Britain. The problem is, for me, Great Britain is so hacked off with the fact that it's made to feel like it's pointless and useless living your life correctly. Somebody said earlier to me, right, like when we were a kid, right, and my mother-in-law was telling me the other day, one of her sons said, I'm not going to college. She could go 24 hours to get a job or you're out. Right? Fact. She said to my wife, she'd gone through some sort of relationship thing, you've got 24 hours to lie on the sofa, then you're going back to work. Where's that spirit gone? Where's that you've got to graft? Walk up hill in the morning, earn money. All of my kids work. Right now, my kid, the aspiring golfer, started at 6 o'clock this morning as a trainee greenkeeper, and he'll be raking bunkers and filling divots in for 8 hours, and he'll earn 80 quid, but by God will he understand that 80 quid is valuable and worth it. Why don't we do that with our kids instead of say to them, oh, just sign on like your dad did. That'll make you feel proud. It's rubbish, man.
Because the reason is because we had a conversation the other day. Your dad and my dad said to us, you are going to get a job. Yeah. We didn't need $4,500 from the government to say, could you please assist your little darlings in getting a job? Right?
Yeah,
because
completely.
My dad and your dad knew that the only way to go through life is we've got to earn money.
But that's the point. If you're given that, if you're given money for doing nothing, that sends a very powerful but unsustainable message. Which listen. I obviously, like you, I come from a different planet. I wanted to go out I say to Henry every day, once you've earned that 80 quid, you can go and buy stuff. I wanted to go out and work and be better than the next person, to earn more than the next person, so I could do stuff that I wouldn't be able to do. But if you give people that stuff, if you say to people you can have that without making any effort, you're you're just making a rob for your own back. Al, keep the faith. Thank you. Leslie, please tell Jeremy Kyle to stop saying wipe your backside all the time. It's a horrific image at breakfast. Well, I didn't realise you were eating your breakfast. Wiping your backside. What do you want me to say? Kiss in there? I don't know what you want me to say. Leslie, text me back and tell me what you want to say. Jackie Spur. Nice. Morning, Jez. Why doesn't the Home Secretary go out to France like the Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp and Nigel did and really see what's bloody happening? Because he'd probably have to realise the depth of the angle. Morning, Jez. Chris Philp should extend a public invitation to Burnham to join him on the French beaches, all televised. David in Cheshire, let's say a very good morning. I'm so delighted to have him on. This man was Work and Pensions Secretary between 2010 and 2016, and about the only person who took the benefit system, grabbed it by the throat and did right by it. I'm coughing. Sir Ian Duncan-Smith, good morning, my friend.
Good morning, good morning.
I won't talk about boats to you. Did you hear the clip that I just played from the? Did you hear it, or were you setting up?
No, I did.
I know you were Work and Pension Secretary, and I know I'm absolutely about to combust this morning. Front page of the Mail. Yesterday, Burnham made a big talk about, and I agree with it, 16-year-olds who perhaps don't have it in them to go to university, shouldn't go to some college just to get a degree, end up in debt. We should bring back apprenticeships. We should encourage people to work. This morning we discover, Ian, that unemployed families on long-term benefits will be given £4,500 per year of taxpayers' money to get their kids to accept an apprenticeship. Now, I can be more outspoken than you. Why don't we say to these people, you're not going to get any benefits unless all of you get off your backsides and go to work? I don't understand what's happened.
Yeah, the whole apprenticeship idea comes from a paper that was written by the Centre for Social Justice, which I chair, which I set up. And the point was they've looked at other countries and said, here's the baseline. Lots and lots of kids at school do not want to go on past 16 to study at university, etc. And yet they seem to be abandoned by the schools if they're not on that path. And they leave 15, 16, they just go. And you don't see them again until they're at least 18, when they then go on to the benefit system, by which time they've got a wage scar on their backs. And we realised this when we were doing this, they're almost unemployable. So the key bit here was to try and get schools to work with the government to make sure that those who do not want to go down that road and who want to do something practical, they should be looking at apprenticeships and at studying in those areas. And Holland does this now. Holland doesn't bribe them with money to do this, but there is no reason to bribe anybody to do what they really want to do. Most kids want to come out with some kind of qualification that allows them to get to work. And we talk all the time, and I've been arguing this for years now, we've got to stop talking about careers and start talking about jobs.
Yeah.
Because most kids, and kids from difficult homes, maybe whose families have failed in education themselves, they don't talk about careers, they talk about jobs because they want to be earning money. And when it's explained to them, I sent job centre staff into a school, 2 schools I think it was, to talk to children about what's available out there with or without qualifications. And I think it had a big effect on those kids because they suddenly realised that actually if they want to get jobs, then they have to have some sort of qualifications. And then that starts to focus their minds. Most kids want to have a happy life, work hard, get some money. And what goes wrong with this is it's looked at from the standpoint of politicians who simply think of careers, university, and all the rest of it. So
what's wrong with grafting and working your way up and proving your worth completely? And that, as a mantra, to me, has disappeared because we have a system that is saying, it's OK. I mean, this might be seen as outrageous from Amanda. Please tell Ian this, if the parents are unemployed, perhaps their attitude means that their offspring are unemployable or feel the same, and I agree with that.
Yeah, that's true. And therefore, what you end up with is generational unemployment.
Yeah.
So what happens is the habit of unemployment falls on the shoulders of the next generation. What we managed to do when I was there, we got a huge amount of long-term unemployed back into work. These were mostly the parents of the kids that were going through school who themselves had failed at school and who had no qualifications to get jobs. Getting them back into work, helping work with them, that helped change the family. If a family's in work, it's more likely the children will be eventually in work, and it's more likely, therefore, they will settle. If they have strong family ties, it's more likely that they'll have strong family ties themselves. And so this is really important. So what we've looked at, and I went out to visit a school in Holland, is that in their school, they run grades from A to about D, I think it is. And in the school, the top grades, they're not called really the top grades, they're the other grades, they do academic. They're the ones that are going to go off probably to university, do all sorts of courses in various things. The other group are the group that are most likely to be practical with their hands, and certainly not going off to university. But what they do in those grades is they give them that in the school, and they give the academic, the ones in the school, and then they cross over. If you are at the lower grade, as it might be called, you end up doing some academic work. If you're an academic student, you end up learning to do plumbing and to all the practical skills. And the Dutch head teacher said to me one day, the trouble with Britain is that when we build a house, we like to know that the person that built the house, that did the plumbing, that did the electricity, isn't going to electrocute me when I go and switch on the light switch, that the roof's not going to fall in. We believe in qualifications. In England, he said, you like cowboys that have never had any qualifications, no apprenticeships, and your house is a ruin afterwards. And he said, quite simply, we value the qualifications no matter whether you're a plumber. Every banker needs a plumber. Every smart ass who went to university and ends up going on to do some academic work, they need electricians. They need builders. You would like to treat them as every bit as important as the people that went to university, in some cases even more important.
Couldn't agree more. We've only got a minute, but for me, and I completely agree with you, it's about attitude, isn't it? We've become a society, not just with illegal migrants, but certainly with benefits, and people won't say it. You said it. God, I'd have you back in a heartbeat. You said we need to change the attitude of it becomes a career choice. We want to help the genuine, but we need a government or politicians to stand up and say the system is being gamed by millions of people and we need to do something about it, Ian.
Yeah, half of the problem we found isn't actually the parents so much. They may not know about the apprenticeship system, but also teachers do not really still quite value the apprenticeship system like they value university. And so that's really where you need to also make sure that teachers value that and explain it to the kids, because that's the way ahead. And so all I would say is you don't need to bribe people to go and do an apprenticeship. When they realize they will be paid throughout that, that's not a bribe, that becomes common sense. So many kids are now paying off massive debts who went to university and find now that they're struggling to get a job that pays. Many of those would have been better off in apprenticeships. It's changing the attitude of the governing class, not the people, of people who in Parliament and in the schools, all of those in the top strata of academia. Apprenticeships are every bit as important, if not more important, than it is to be at university.
Could not agree more. And honestly, thank you. Delighted you could join us. The Work and Pension Secretary from 2010 to 2016, who, if I had anything to do, would be back running that department right now. We're a little bit late, but I am not missing out on Ian Duncan-Smith. News at 8 next on Talk Breakfast.
named Jamila Jamil, who has made her career out of calling people out on literally anything with the faintest whiff of controversy, only to find herself in controversy time and time again, whether it's feuds with celebrities, social media rows, accusations. She even disowned her entire family, claiming that they are fat-phobic. Well, if your worldview boils down to 70 million people being villains because of where they are born, that is not courageous. It's actually very lazy and entitled.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back or welcome along. Just gone 8 o'clock. What is it? Wednesday, the 29th of July. You were taught the home of common sense and, of course, the home of you, the alarm clock Brit. Your views on the day's news always welcome. 0344 499 1000. You can call, you can send a voice note, you text to 87222. What are you waking up to? Well, Andy Burnham broke his silence yesterday on the small boats crisis. He said that Labour's plan to stop dinghy migrants is working. This despite 1,000 migrants coming to this country in the 9 days before he became Prime Minister. I acknowledge that he made a comment, but is it working? You guys don't seem to think so. We played that footage of Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, out there in northern France on a boat yesterday, and a French vessel, this is the country we're paying 500 million quid to, firing shots, which is an extraordinary thing. The other thing that's gone with you today is benefits. I have to explain to people who might disagree. You know, I think if you're a hard-working Brit and you get up and you're trying to pay your taxes and live within the confines of the law, you are going to be absolutely naturally hacked off to the back teeth that people can come here illegally and seemingly get better treatment than you. We also have a seminal moment in my mind. Yesterday, Andy Burnham made a big thing about how 16-year-olds were basically either told at school, go to university or you'll achieve nothing, and I absolutely support him in that. I said yesterday there are ridiculous numbers of courses at huge numbers of colleges and universities that do nothing to ensure a job and end up with kids in debt, frankly. And I'm all for apprenticeships and getting people to work, but I'm not for what the Daily Mail reports today, because it just about sums up another hole in 9 days of good intention, I would say, about Burnham. What he's going to do is if your family's on benefits, long-term benefits, the entire family, if you're good enough to say to your child, it might be a good idea if you do an apprenticeship, we'll give you $4.5 grand. What does that say to people that are working? Why will nobody in Labour, genuine question, stand up, because I think Andy Burnham's got the political capital to do this, and say, you're going to have to accept, Parliamentary Labour Party, that there are many hundreds of thousands of people who are gaming our benefit system. The left don't want to hear this, but it's true. The genuine people are missing out. You can game the system and play the system, and it needs to change. Before I speak to my next guest, this was a voice note earlier, OK? This was a voice note, no, not a voice note, a text that was sent. This man thought he'd see if he could game the system. Have a listen to this. This is from Richard. Jez, I'm an alarm clock Brit working this morning from 2 a.m. I decided recently to apply, just to see how it works, online for PIP, although there was absolutely nothing wrong with me. I found out yesterday that my application has been successful and I'm going to be paid £170 a month. Now, I'm a decent guy. I'm going to call them, refuse payment and tell them what I was doing. I've never had to talk to one single bloody person during the process. And ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are listening in the United Kingdom, that is exactly what's wrong with our benefit system. Julie, good morning.
Hi Jeremy, I know someone at work who's scamming the PIP system, and when I questioned her and said, well, who do you think's paying for it, the taxpayers, her answer to me was, well, if I don't do it, somebody else will, and what about all the migrants and all the people coming over? They're getting put in hotels, so why shouldn't I have a bit of the pie? And I didn't know what to say. It's messed up.
It's more than messed up. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222 from the Mail on Sunday. Top man as well. Delighted to have him on. Dan Hodges, good morning.
Morning.
Let's start differently, because I've been reading, I read you all the time, and you and I have some really good discussions. We might disagree on things, but we have, I think, at our heart, a desire to try and make things better. Your assessment of Andy Burnham, day 9 so far, and can I just caveat it with a certain radio presenter on some other station said, all Kyle does is stand up and go, this sounds great, because I say his optics are much better than the past, but I have to absolutely believe that my job is to say how you're going to pay for it, because I broadcast to people who are working every single day and are really feeling that life is unfair. So I will continue to ask Andy Burnham, how are you going to pay for it? How do you assess his first week?
Well, I think broadly he's done very well, and I think we're seeing that reflected in the opinion polls. There's been a very positive response. I mean, I literally just got back. I was away for a week, but just before I went away, the day he came into Downing Street, and I said at the time, I thought the successful thing he did, he was introducing himself to the British people for the first time, and I think they saw the Andy Burnham that, you know, some of us that know him got to see, which is, you know, a basically decent guy, a good communicator, someone who's comfortable in his own skin, somebody who speaks human. So that was a positive. I think the other positive thing, and this was something we discussed, I think, before he came in, I think you have seen an emphasis in terms of his focus on a prime minister who does get and is at least attempting to address the concerns of ordinary working people, and that's been very much his focus. So I think that's a positive. The problem, though, and you've just identified it, is we have had start to see, you know, Andy Burnham setting out his priorities and his ambitions, but the crunch is going to be, how is he going to pay for it? Now, we had, obviously, I think his first announcement was obviously the sort of the cut in energy bills, which it then transpired hadn't been properly costed, because it was based on scrapping Keir Starmer's ID cards, which itself was a policy that hadn't actually been costed. So, as you say, that is going to become the key issue. But up to now, you know, first week or so, I think he's done well.
I couldn't agree more. And there are people who will read you and agree with you, and there are people that will agree with me and disagree with both of us. I think you wrote it. A decent start, a good communicator. That pen would have been better than Keir Starmer. I like, and I'm being completely straight, that he seems to be talking to the British people about what I call domestic policy, because if you tell me about Starmer's legacy, he'll go on about Ukraine. I don't see. He seems to understand. But actually, I would go further. When Darren Jones stuck the boot in 10 seconds after he made that announcement, to me, that set a template. And I have to say, your paper this morning has left me beyond angry, because yes, finally, you know, he says we're going to do something about young kids. I have long said, I have a 16-year-old who wants to be a professional golfer. He's grafting as a greenkeeper. He was never going to go to university. I think he'll make a success of his life. I think we have a duty, right, to say to our kids, we're not elitist enough to say, if you're great, go to university, that's fine. Maybe it sounds elitist, but don't just go and do some ridiculously crappy course at some second-rate place just so you can tick a box and end up heavily in debt. So I appreciate that. And he talked about apprenticeships, and I've worked with the Sun over the years on apprenticeship models and done all of that. But this, on the front of your paper this morning, is again a Darren Jones moment. If you expect alarm clock Britons, and you know this, buddy, who are up at 4 o'clock paying their taxes, won't have enough to ever have a holiday or a takeout this week, but their kids will be fine and there'll be food on the table. If you expect to say to them, by the way, if you're long-term unemployed, and there will be people who, you know, are definitely in need of that, but there will be people gaming the system, we're going to give you $4,500 to convince your kid to go on an apprenticeship. They're all ringing me this morning and going, why don't we just give up our job and sign on? What I want from a Labour politician, and I hope that Andy Burnham is the man, and I mean this, I want him to stand up with his political capital and say to the Parliamentary Labour Party, if you don't accept what I'm going to say, we're toast forever. There are hundreds of thousands of people who are not genuinely mentally ill or disabled, who are gaming the bloody system, and I, or somebody like me, is going to have to do something about facing that reality. I think that's a crunch moment for Andy Burnham. I know it's early doors, but I think the British people, boats, yes, but that is a real focus. The response this morning has been ludicrous.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's a number of things there. I mean, firstly, again, you're right. One of the key things is welfare, and the failure to get to grips with welfare was one of the reasons, well, was the primary reason why Keir Starmer is no longer, ended up getting booted out and is no longer Prime Minister, because his failure to use his own political capital to force through changes on welfare basically sealed his fate. And from that moment on, the Parliamentary Labour Party thought, we can just push this guy around, and his premiership was effectively over. On the issue you're talking about, though, the PIP payments, you're absolutely right. There are people gaming the system, but it's equally the case, and this was what we saw when Keir Starmer began to introduce his reforms. As Keir Starmer framed the reforms, there were a lot of people in genuine need who were going to start losing their support, which is why I think we have to be much more creative in terms of how we address this problem.
Yeah. It can't be blanket, and I'm not stupid enough to think it can be blanket, but what I want, and I don't care about their political party, their religion, their sex, I want a conviction politician convicted to stand up and go, I don't care if you don't like what I'm saying, there are people gaming the bloody system at the detriment of the hard-working Brit, and I'm going to do something about it. Does Burnham have the political capital or the cojones to face up the Parliamentary Labour Party, do you think, Dan?
He's certainly got the political capital, and he's got the cojones, in my view. The question is, what are his priorities and how much political capital does he want to burn? I mean, obviously, we're going to get a big announcement later today on social care, which again is a hugely difficult problem. As I said, my own view is, I don't think Andy Burnham is going to be able to achieve any of the things Andy Burnham wants to achieve unless he can demonstrate he can get to grips with the welfare bill. And it's not just about the political optics of showing he's prepared to deal with people who are swinging the lead. The reality is he's simply not going to have the financial resources to deploy in the areas he wants to. And the fundamental issue for me with the spiralling welfare bill is, we do need to provide people, in my view, we do need to provide people with support when they fall on hard times.
Of course.
The problem is, we've got a spiralling welfare bill against the backdrop, and which certainly until recently has not effectively been full employment, but has been very, very close. Now, you and I are old enough to remember when 3.5 million people were on the dole.
Yeah,
that's not the situation we're seeing at the moment. So you obviously have to be compassionate, but it's, as everyone I think agrees, it's simply not sustainable to have a soaring welfare bill against a backdrop of significant employment and employment opportunities.
And that word you used, which I think is it's so central. This, and I've said it. And I've never voted Labour in my life. And we're straight with each other. We might be different politically, but we're of the same era. I absolutely support a system that says to the lady that texted me earlier with multiple sclerosis, whose husband's got cancer, she's been trying for 14 months to get PIP. She's tearing her hair out, OK? I want to pay my taxes, as all hard-working Brits do, I think, to help those who can't help themselves. But so much of our society, Dan, now, whether it's diversity, whether it's fair, whatever it is, we've gone so far the other way, that we're helping people who don't, frankly, sorry, some do not deserve that help, some are using that help, some are coming here to this country just for that help. That's all well and good when you're financially OK and people don't look. But there's a cost of living crisis. Andy Burnham knows this, you know this, I know this in this country. And hard-working Brits, I use the word every day, mate, and it's fairness. And unless he, or whoever it is prepared to face up and go, this system is, sorry, the lady who doesn't like it, wiping the backside of many, not decent, hard-working people who deserve the help and have fallen on hard times. It is wiping the backside of too many people who are taking the mickey out of us. That is why our public services are struggling, our social care system, all of those things. Because the money... I mean, when I found out, you were on air with me, that our benefits bill at £333 billion outweighs what the Exchequer gets from tax from people working. What message does that send as a society? It's appalling.
No, absolutely. And I think, again, it goes back to what I said at the beginning. I think one of the positives is Andy Burnham has framed his agenda as one that is at last going to be focused at working people. But the problem the Labour Party has is, if you want to represent working people, you have to represent working people in the entirety, not cherry pick the bits, the bits that working people like. So working people want a good health service, so the Labour Party likes aligning with that. But you're absolutely right. Working people, and the clue is in the name, also want to have a benefit system and a welfare system that does not reward those who simply don't want to work. And if Andy Burnham is genuinely going to be able to demonstrate he's the representative and the tribune of working Britain, and I think he could well be, then he's going to have to grasp the nettle of some of these things. And as you say, you know, tell his party some unpalatable things. And again, this is the reality. Obviously, Keir Starmer's been kicked out, and he was kicked out because obviously Labour's political position in terms of the polls was dire. But this is still a government that has a majority of 160.
Yep.
You know, if Andy Burnham isn't going to use that majority to take a couple of tough decisions now, then the reality is he's never going to get the opportunity to take those tough decisions, because whatever the result of the next election, unless Andy Burnham turns out to be, you know, not just a good politician, but you know, a miracle worker, Labour's not going to have a 170 majority, whatever majority it does or doesn't have after the next election. So he's going to have to use the majority now.
I actually couldn't agree more. And some people are going, no, I completely agree. I mean, yesterday you saw this Labour MPs already warning Burnham that he'll lose their support, as Starmer did, if he makes punitive welfare cuts. I want to say to all of those Labour MPs, why do you have to use the word punitive? The system should defend, look after and support those who need it. Why will Labour MPs specifically think that any cut is punitive? Why will they not accept what we've already acknowledged? Absolutely, there are people gaming the system. And I think you're right. For me, Burnham, whether it's benefits, whether it's boats, he has got, I said it last week and people were like, oh, he doesn't need to. He's got political capital. Now we find out whether, and I don't mean this to sound the wrong way, whether he's OK with being not liked. Because we can pick two leaders, we might disagree about their effectiveness, but you think Blair and you think Thatcher. That was their plan. If you stood in their way or it upset your party, you were out the door, they had a plan and they stuck to it. Is he a conviction politician who will take the rough with the smooth? All I can say is I don't know, but I bloody well hope so, Dan.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. But also, this is the thing, on the issue of political capital, Andy Burnham has more political capital in the bank this week than he did last week.
Yeah.
Right. When he came in, as we saw, there were people like, you know, Darren Jones popping up, the old, you know, the discarded Starmerites, you know, spitting blood and saying we're going to wreak revenge. They've gone quiet this week. And the reason they've gone quiet is, firstly, they know Darren Jones overplayed his hand by, you know, so overtly ambushing Andy Burnham like 24 hours into office. But the other thing, they've seen the polls as well. They can see Labour under Andy Burnham suddenly has its first poll leads in, what, 18 months.
Is that bounce or the beginning of a massive change?
We don't know. We don't know. I mean, I think it's a combination of two things. I think partly it's a combination of, partly it's a Starmer bounce, in the sense, thank God Starmer's gone, genuinely. And the other thing is, as I say, I think people like what they're seeing from Andy Burnham at the moment. Now, if he starts to follow through with that and Labour's poll leads are sustained, then the political capital he has to spend will be even greater, because people within the Labour Party will go, well, actually, you know what, Andy Burnham's popular here, I'd better get behind him.
But if they start digging, if we all start digging and find that stuff isn't costed effectively and ask questions which can't be answered, then he loses the political capital, right?
This is the key thing. He can't achieve anything unless the numbers add up.
Yeah. Completely.
Right,
Completely, mate.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
You know, he can be as, you know, he can wear as many black T-shirts and, you know, be as down to earth and speak human as much as anything else. If the sums don't add up, the whole thing falls apart. So that's a, you know, that's a given.
Mate, it's always a pleasure. Did you enjoy your holiday?
I certainly did. Although, glad to be back with you.
Good
Glad
man.
to be
We
back
love
with
you.
my friend.
Seriously, great to have you on, my friend. Thank you. Dan Hodges, commentator, Mail on Sunday. Being honest, being absolutely as I see it. I don't have to agree with a Labour policy. I don't. I happen to think Burnham probably will be out of his depth, but I can, as a voter, sit here and say I don't care if it's Ed Davey, Nigel Farage, Rupert Lowe, Andy Burnham or Mother Teresa. I want somebody to stand in front of me and say, it's hard right now, this is what I'm going to do, some of you won't like it, that's tough, we need to do this. And if people in this country in politics do not understand that the working class man and woman, the alarm clock Brits, have had enough of seeing people who do nothing or come here illegally be better off than them, they are missing the damn point, whatever their political persuasion. Mick, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Another day, another bit of madness from the government. So I'm 57. I've worked all my life, every day, never had a day off, never been sick. I've been very lucky. The government haven't given me a single pound in benefits. And what they're doing today, or what they're planning to do, they're going to give somebody already on benefits, so already ahead of me in sort of what they get out of the system, they're going to give them £4,500. Why am I going to work to give the people on benefits more benefits? It's absolutely ridiculous and I'm fed up of it. So I might just take the easy route and join them. Anyway, it's a sunny day in Staffordshire. Have a good one, Jezza, and everybody listening. Let's all go to work to keep on feeding the machine.
Borders have been opened to Islamist extremists. They are radicalising individuals in broad daylight, nurturing anti-Semitism, and they've been caught red-handed on multiple occasions, yet the government is refusing to act. That's across Europe, by the way. It's not just in France. Yeah. It's not just in Germany. It's here. It's happening here in the United Kingdom. It's happening on our soil.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I've decided to write a pitch document, which, if you know anything about television, means that you write a document and you take it to a television network and you say, would you like to make this show? I am utterly convinced that behind the scenes on the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show would make the Osbournes look like I've no idea. Just give you a clue. Tommy is the most extraordinary human being. I don't even understand. He'll go to the south of France for a day. It's unbelievable. He just said, Christian just said, did you know that Tommy... This is how it went. Did you know that Tommy's cousin operated on Nelson Mandela? And I went, where? And he went, South Africa, you idiot. I went, no, where on his body? At which point he's left the building. I mean, the whole thing. It's a bizarre combination. It is just ridiculous. Thank you for tuning in this morning. 0344 499 1000. What are you waking up to? The news that Andy Burnham has finally broken his silence on the small boat. He insists Labour's plan's working. That's not what the figures say, because 1,000 new illegals have arrived in the last 9 days since he became Prime Minister. I think the migrant tracker will show over 13,300, 13,320 have arrived since the beginning of the year. We saw some incredible footage with Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, who was out in the Channel yesterday when a French vessel started firing. This is the country we give 500 million to for stopping the boats. He was on with me this morning. There were migrants hidden in bushes and gendarmes with a cigarette, a gauloir, saying, have a lovely time in Britain. They will give you everything. They obviously weren't from France. The other thing that's winding the bits off you is this benefits argument. I mean, yesterday Andy Burnham made the announcement that he wanted 16-year-olds to do apprenticeships, and we went, fantastic, we agree. This morning it transpired, from the Mail, his idea is to say to long-term unemployed families, could you do me a favour and encourage your kids to go back to work? Because if you would do that for me to make it look great and the figure will go, I'll give you £4.5 grand. I don't want to get into trouble, but I will put it like this. Why don't you, Mr Burnham, say to the 2 million people who are gaming the bloody system, get off your arse, I'm not giving you any money. Why don't you have it in you to tell your children by leadership that working for a living is actually what it's all about? Call me old-fashioned. Daniel, good morning.
Good morning, Jezza. It's Daniel from Epsom here. I've got a message for everyone out there in Britain. Labour will not protect our borders and Labour will not protect British people. They're reneging on their first duty as a government to protect British citizens. Every single day in the news, there's another attack, another sexual assault or a rape or a murder from one of these invaders that the British public didn't ever want or ask for in Britain. It has to stop. It's a national emergency. And to not treat it as a national emergency is, I think, treasonous. It's treachery. The British people have spoken. We want something done.
Couldn't agree more. The boats are winding you up. The benefits are really winding you up. Christian just said something else, which is interesting. How many of you out there remember the old careers advisor? They came into schools and said, well, I think looking at your... I mean, the one said to me, he said, looking at your exams and the sort of person you are, I don't think you're going to amount to much. Sod him. Did you have a careers advisor? Did that make a difference? This is interesting. Suze, morning, Jez. I'm a state pensioner on £930 a month. Get this. 50 years of work, $930 a month. This month I needed dental treatment, which I can't get on the NHS, and it cost me £800. It makes my head explode that illegals and benefit claimants get this for free. It is not fair. I am sick to death of it. Mark. Dan's saying exactly the same thing, Hodges, what he said about Starmer when he first became Prime Minister. He's basic. I'm not going to stick up for people who don't need sticking up for. What Dan Hodges quite rightly said was he's got some political capital. But if you listen to what he said he said optics-wise a good first week, but if the figures don't up, he'll be on his backside like Starmer was. Margaret, when I was young, it was an embarrassment to be on benefits. Imagine. People dreaded claiming and tried as hard as they could to get a job. Now it seems the complete opposite. Mags, I couldn't agree more. Terry's in Birmingham. All right, mate. Burnham's like a rabbit in the headlights. Jez, when asked about migrants, that I agree. Wide-eyed, mouth dropped, came out with a Starmer stock answer. I have to say, if you watch the footage, I completely agree. Morning, Jez. I'm 61. So am I, says Paul in his truck from Maesteg. Is that in Wales? Is it Maesteg? I don't know where that is it? I'm a heart attack survivor. I'm full of arthritis. I'm up to start work at 2 a.m. religiously. I work over 70 hours a week. I'm 61 and I wouldn't dream of giving up to work to live on benefits. However, listening to this bloody government, I would be better off on the dole. Yes, I'm in pain. Yes, I struggle daily. But no, I can't stay at home relying on others because that's in me. And you are exactly what makes this country fantastic, Paul, in your truck. I completely agree. I completely 1,000,000% agree. Anthony's in Liverpool. Jez, this will just be another incentive for the scroungers to push more kids out. Yep. More kids, more benefits. Bring back military conscription for those who haven't tried to get a job or stay in education by the time they're 18. They will miraculously find a job. Not sure whether the military services would want them. I got into trouble years and years and years ago on ITV for saying I thought it was fundamentally wrong for people to have a kid just to get a flat or a council house. Outrage! No, fact. Fact. Pay for your own kids. Jez, I disagree with you and Ian Duncan Smith. Why shouldn't a kid have a career? My youngest daughter, since she was 5, wanted a career working with horses. She went to college for 4 years to learn and they get degrees in horse care, but she can't find a job, says Richie from Miss Sussex. I think you're missing what we're saying. Anybody can have a career. But there has to be a balance between... I tell you what Ian Duncan Smith was saying, so you understand. We got to a point where everybody was pushed into that. Go to university, get a college degree, get into debt and you'll get a job. It's not a fact. You can go to work. without knowing what you're going to do and climb the greasy pole with what? Attitude and effort and resilience and make something. And by the way, talking about careers advisors, does anybody really know at 18 what they want to do? I didn't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. That Pip story that you played, says Jade, is very frustrating. More so because this is the guy that scammed, didn't want the money, thought he'd do it easy. He said more so because we have a cleaner who worked very, very hard and unfortunately has been hit with 3 consecutive cancers that she's recovering from. She genuinely needs Pip payments and has been refused it multiple times despite being in the exact position where she's the opposite to the people who are giving it. That's what I mean. So all the lefties who go, oh, punitive welfare cuts, what about this lady with 3 cancers? What about the lady earlier with multiple sclerosis? She can't get a penny, but my listener can try it and get £170 a month that he's going to give back. It's a con job. Tracy's in London. If a kid doesn't want to work, they're not going to work. It doesn't matter how much you give the parents. I bet if you took money off them, they'd soon get their kids to work. La-di-bloody-da. My mother-in-law, pure example, said it half an hour ago to her son, I won't give his name out, you've got 24 hours a year out the house. Now has the most incredible job by grafting. Well, that can work, right? Lauren from Exeter, I was joking about it with my hairdresser, but it's unfortunately true. Her husband is Spanish and has struggled to get British papers. If he came across on a dinghy, he could have stayed here on a silver plate. Paul's in Portsmouth. How can that idiot Zach say if it was... Oh, we're doing... Yeah, that's the Zach Polanski thing. Right, benefits. Have we done, Daniel? Let's say a very good morning. We thought this was a great booking. That didn't sound like I thought it actually was. Ex-Immigration Minister Kevin Foster. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Jeremy.
I don't know where to start today. I feel like I'm going to combust. Let's start with Andy Burnham. Did you see his speech yesterday saying that being asked about the boats? Well, I'll tell you what, hold your horses, because people tune in and out all day. Andy Burnham on day 9 broke cover when he was asked about illegal migration. Have a watch, peeps.
Do you have a plan to tackle small boat prices?
The Home Secretary has brought forward a very rigorous plan in relation to this. And let's remember, of course, the numbers can fluctuate, but overall, boat crossings are down quite significantly year on year. So that does suggest that the plan is working. Of course, there has to be rigorous checks so that people are not put through into a situation where they are out without the relevant safeguards. And absolutely, I can give you a commitment that that is the clear instruction that I am giving, that all relevant and necessary checks must be done.
Kevin, that's all well and good, although I'm not exaggerating, I saw complete fear in his eyes. He looked like his mouth dried up and he started going, because it's the elephant in the room, isn't it? Nobody seems to be able to come up with an answer. But the facts are that 1,000 people have crossed into this country illegally since he became Prime Minister, 13,320 since January, when Shabana Mahmood became Home Secretary. So Labour isn't working. Successive governments haven't worked. I want to ask you, as an ex-immigration minister, I ask this all the time. Is there a lack of will amongst politicians? Is there a fear? Do they leave it because it's something they can campaign on? Because I don't want to try and make your ex-job simple or whatever, but I could sort this in an hour. I could sort this in a week. I put the Navy in the Channel, I'd recondition a massive Great Line, and nobody would set foot in my country unless they had the correct paperwork. They would be literally dealt with in 24 hours on that boat by a crack-trained team of border officials, and if they failed paperwork, they'd be taken to a detention centre, which wouldn't be a 4-star hotel, which means that when they texted their friends back wherever they came from, they'd be saying Britain isn't such a soft bloody choice anymore. Why is that difficult, Kev?
Right, well, let's start with what wouldn't work with that one. First, a lot of them are used to pretty crummy conditions. If they ended up in detention, we'd then see all the sorts of applications. You know, the great ones we currently see around things like chicken nuggets and everything else. So there are points that happen. What actually deters people, and I'd always say, Jeremy, is look at what Donald Trump's been doing in the United States and what Australia does. Those are the 2 countries that have solved an issue like this, and they haven't done what you've done, but what they have done is they've said, 1, they've strengthened their border operations. 2, they deal with people and process them quite quickly. 3, yes, they do have detained facilities, but then comes the big one. They know where they're going to send people.
Yeah.
They are removing them from their country. The biggest deterrent to small boats is the sight of people being removed from the UK. Because if you put someone in detention and say, right, that's where you're going to stay forever and a day, they'll sit there saying, well, yeah, give it a year or two, we'll get another left-wing government. They won't keep us in here forever, and that'll be the end of that policy. Whereas if you are removed to either back to your home country or to a third country, you're out the country. It's happened. You haven't got what you wanted, which was to stay in the UK by whatever means you tried to do that. So those are ways to two countries that have worked very well with this. Greece a bit similarly. They adopted a tougher approach, have removed people, including managing to send people back to Turkey. And those people who know the politics between Greece and Turkey, they are not good friends. But they have been able to work together to stop a disaster. And if we could return to France, then this problem would disappear quite quickly. So that's the core of all this. And there is a bit of hope on this, Jeremy, actually. You say about politicians doing something tough, and you're right, that Andy Burnham did look a little bit like, oh, hang on, couldn't you just ask me about a £2 bus fare instead? That there is some tough decisions you need to take. One is whether you start returning people to Afghanistan. Now, a few months back, we talked about this. I'd have said that would have been virtually impossible. However, Germany is now doing it. This week, 31 people were deported from Germany back to Afghanistan, crucially, including one person who was not a convicted criminal. They've started with convicted criminals. They've now, I presume as a pilot, done one person who was purely on an immigration matter, and they're part of all the ECHR and everything.
Let me ask you as an ex-immigration minister, I don't mean to make it simple, and I listen to what you're saying. I mean, I think there's so many different facets here. I think we offer far too much. I think we're seen as a soft touch. If you have to go through 7 countries that are all safe to come to Britain, then you surely are coming here for a reason. You say you're the home country. You're an immigration minister. Rishi Sunak, I believe that one of the reasons Rishi Sunak failed is because he didn't instigate Rwanda quick enough, and I think that's a justifiable decision. But why do we, as the United Kingdom, seem to have so much trouble I know about the ECHR, sending people back to their home country? Why if people come illegally from another country, do we have to have them? Do we have to be sponged off? Do we have to give benefits to the detriment of British people? Why, for example, haven't successive governments had the intelligence to make deals? I remember the Albanian guy who was 8'7" standing next to Rishi Sunak at 4'2" on the streets of Delhi. And within, I think, a couple of months, 8,000 Albanian prisoners have been deported. Brilliant. Well done. Good job. Why have successive governments... I don't even know about make deals. Why can't we just tell countries, these are your people, they're bloody well coming back? I saw a clip, I'm sure you might have seen it yourself, from 1983, Margaret Thatcher, vintage Thatcher, answering a question. Have you seen this? And she said that if the right honourable gentleman is suggesting that people should be able to come to a country illegally, against international law, and claim benefits, he's talking about international chaos. Now, many people who listen to me think that I revered this woman. There's much I did revere and there were things I didn't. But that was 43 years ago. Margaret Thatcher knew what was happening. You understand people's frustration, Kev, right?
Absolutely. Margaret Thatcher was right. You've only got to look at what we've seen in places like the Pas-de-Calais over recent years and what you could see there today to see that she was absolutely right about what the outcome would be if you allow law breaking on a sort of commercialised basis, you know, what some of these gangs do. Where the issue comes, you're right to say we should tell people to take them back. This is where, though, the problem comes up is what would you tell Tehran at the moment? Yeah, what would you tell the regime in Iran? At the moment, you know, Donald Trump is clearly engaged in military operations against them. He's telling them to do things backed up by the most powerful military in the world, and they're trying to resist doing what he's telling them to do. So it's unlikely we get a deal in terms of returning people for immigration purposes to Tehran anytime soon.
Well, then make it more difficult for them to come here because we know they're finding a loop. I get what you're saying, mate, but
they come here illegally in a small boat, Jeremy, so we're not allowing them to come here. So, and
I think we are by not being strong enough with our borders,
those who are genuine refugees, and that is determined again by the United Nations, will not be...
Because it's all very well if someone shows up in a boat, and France won't take them back, and we haven't allowed them to come here. You've got to have the answer of where are you going to send them next? And that's why we came up with Rwanda. And by the way, the United States is looking at Rwanda. I think they've also done a deal with the Central African Republic. Australia was the inspiration with their deal with Nauru. Again, we can look at countries that have solved this problem or we can try and come up with ideas of our own. And myself and when we're working with Pretty and Tom Purslow, we said, well, let's look at the country that has actually solved a problem like this, Australia. And we came up with Rwanda, we came up with different reforms. You're right to say that one of the reasons Rishi Sunak didn't succeed, we should have got on and implemented that plan, rather than, a great new slogan. Well, okay, brilliant, but that wasn't really going to actually resolve the problem. No. And as Keir Starmer found out, smash the gangs. Yeah, great slogan, worked well through a general election, but almost the moment it had contact with the reality of dealing with the situation, it failed. So that's where really, if we want to solve this, and you say about politicians standing up and saying determination, I think absolutely right. I think that's what the public want to hear. They want to hear that, look, this isn't easy. You can look at all the flack that the US authorities took. You can look at all the flack, actually really want to go back, John Howard took in Australia. But in the end, that's how they solve this problem. There's no shortcuts, no easy answers.
I had family in Australia when John Howard did that, right? And interestingly, what was the Prime Minister that I interviewed before this one? What was Tony Abbott, right? And I remember the international outrage that Australia dared to turn that boat away with 983 migrants on. But he said, I've never forgotten it, I'm afraid my education system, my health service, my social care service is on its backside and my own people are suffering, so no. And that policy, when they finally held a referendum, 90-something% of Australia said, good on you, you're putting the Australian people first. And Albanese, who's a Labour Prime Minister, has kept the same policy going. So my thing has always been, I don't care. I said it earlier, I agree with you completely and utterly, my friend. I don't care, Kevin, whether you're Labour, Conservatives, Reform. I don't care. Don't obviously add in the Liberal Democrats, that's ludicrous. I want a politician, male, female, whatever, to stand in front of me and go, look, these are the issues right now. This is unfair to working Brits. This is unfair to our society. We are allowing people in. We are giving benefits to people who are gaming the system. We're going to have to swallow some horrible medicine and pee off a few people. But we're going to do it for the benefit, in the end, of this country as a whole. That's what I want to hear, but I haven't heard it for years. Well, I've heard it, but I've never seen it followed through.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Jeremy. It's one of the things that a government of 160 majority with likely support of the opposition, if Andy Burnham tomorrow said, look, this is an ongoing sort of plague on our country, literally. We cannot enforce the border. I can see two countries that have done this, Australia and US. I can see the impact socially and the impact this is having overall on our country, and I'm prepared to push forward a Australia-style solution. He could get that through Parliament. The problem is, a lot of traditional Labour voters would be cheering him on, and he'd probably have Conservative MPs in the lobby with him, and probably Reform as well. The problem is, the type of person who becomes a Labour MP is the type of person who doesn't like this type of approach for very philosophical reasons, and that will be his challenge. But if he does drive this forward, and he did solve this, then in many of those red wall seats, he can already look forward to. He would already be able to look forward to a good win in 2029 or whenever he calls a general election.
Kevin, you are a legend, mate. I'm sorry to have to call it there. You know what it's like trying to do this, but we thank you enormously. Great to have you on, my friend. Kevin Foster, former Immigration Minister. This is Talk Breakfast. Morning, Mark.
Right, Mark in Chingford here. Morning, Jez. Right, you might have to bleep some of this because I'm not an happy bunny today. I really ain't. Why the bloody hell are we giving France $500 million, half a bloody bill? Are you having a laugh? And what are they doing? They're doing absolutely nothing. Do you think France wants them? They don't want them, so they're letting them go. They're most probably helping them push the boats off the bloody beach. It's a bloody joke.
The Housewives' Choice here this afternoon from 1 o'clock, maybe with a bit of AI. 10 to 9, 0344 499 1000. Today's columnist for The Sun, brilliant piece about Zach, Dave, Hypno-Tits Polanski on page 10. Good morning, Ross Clark, how are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. Fine.
So much to talk about. We haven't got an awful lot of time, but this is brilliant. Zach Polanski, I don't say brilliant, has refused 7 times to apologise for that shameful Instagram post that showed a guillotine and the words, "We're only making plans for Nigel." Nigel Farage and Reform outraged, especially on the back of their colleague and, Reform Party spokesperson Anne Widdecombe being hideously murdered 3 or 4 weeks ago, and what that did across the political classes. Polanski liked it, and then when there was an uproar, took it down. He refuses to respond. He says that the truth is that Farage is stirring it up. Farage says Polanski should face consequences. You say if he can't see a problem with his T-shirt, he's unfit for office. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, well, you can just try to imagine if this was the other way round, if Nigel Farage had tweeted a picture of Zach Polanski suggesting he was strung up from a lamppost or something. I mean, the police would be onto him like no time. The left would go into overdrive and demand that he serve a long prison sentence, he's unfit for public office and so on. And yet when it comes to the left, they seem to think that they can get away with anything, that it's just sort of a bit of cheeky fun if they do something like this, whereas remember the murder of Joe Cox, the Labour MP, right-wing extremist. Now, it took just a couple of minutes for the left on that occasion to start blaming the Brexit campaign or anybody who'd ever suggested we leave the EU, for example. It was sort of bigged up, But when Anne Widdecombe was murdered, on the other hand, we're told, oh, no, we mustn't speculate about the killer's motives. And that's the sort of the sort of inconsistency.
Two-tier, to be fair. I actually totally agree with you, and I think the Reform are absolutely spot on to complain. I do think, and I think this is important, I think his bubble has burst already. I think that the left who found a home behind that madman, I mean, by the way, the Green Party, not the mention of a tree or the environment, they're just a ragtag bunch of misfits who have any activists from any walk of life jumping on the bandwagon. You notice his polls have dropped to about 8%. People, I think, have rode in behind Burnham and seen Zach Polanski exactly for what he and his hideous party are, and I don't think there's any way back from them. And this, is he unfit for office? Yes, the London Assembly should censure him. Will they? Probably not. But your average hard-working Brit sees this man, if that's what I'm supposed to call him, exactly for what he is. I still can't believe they won that election. I don't even know what they stand for. Nothing.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a man who, of course, wants us all to pay extra tax, but wouldn't actually pay his own council tax and sort of try to weasel out of it by saying he made a mistake and so on.
He lived on a canal boat. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. His party has been absolutely rife with anti-Semitism.
Did he come in on the canal boat illegally, or was it? That's what I'd like to know.
Possibly. He sort of lived there, then claimed it wasn't his main home, and there's all this sort of weaselly excuses, didn't he? But I mean, the Green Party has a growing absolute reputation for this sort of hate speech. There were several council candidates in Newcastle upon Tyne back in May who made absolutely vile remarks about anti-Semitic remarks. One sort of posted a picture of the Israeli flag torn, and behind it was a swastika, and said, oh no, doesn't the actions in Gaza make you feel a tiny bit anti-Semitic, and so on. Absolutely vile stuff. Now, Green Party did sort of after some delay, they disowned those candidates. But I mean, the very fact that they can, go up the green hierarchy while entertaining such beliefs just tells you everything you know about what the party has become. It's no more about sort of gentle environmentalism as some of its voters still seem to think. This is a sort of very far left party which has swallowed some of the So it's attracted the voters who used to go for Corbynism and
Could not agree more, Ross. Sorry, it has to be quick, but I have to say to everybody, it's a great column from Ross today. Page 10 of The Sun on Polanski. Could not agree with him more. Ross Clark, thank you very much indeed. Mark, push the button, my friend. 2 minutes.
90 minutes in 90 seconds from The Sun.
Let's say good morning to Catherine Walsh, part of The Sun's amazing football coverage. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
Who do you support?
Today, I think Watford.
Watford? What's going on? You need some lights on. Listen, I love The Sun. Everything you need to know. No way, Jose Mourinho, the new manager of Real Madrid, will not let Vinicius Jr. leave. I mean, he's got some squad, Jose. He's got to win it all, hasn't he, this season? Bit of pressure.
Well, absolutely. They've hired a new manager to get them back in contention to be winning the La Liga. Barcelona have won it now for the last 2 seasons. He is back after being there, over a decade ago, to sort that squad out. The arguments that they had last season, the turmoil, he's back to bring it all together, and he will not let Vinicius Jr. leave. Arsenal have been circling around Vinicius Jr., but Madrid want to keep him. He is entering the final year of his £400,000 a week contract, and they expect him to sign a new one.
We haven't got long, but Gianni Infantino is under pressure this morning, the FIFA boss, for plotting shamelessly to sell the World Cup. It's not FIFA's to sell. This is outrageous.
It's just the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it? Every week there's something else that he is cooking up and more controversy that he's doing to annoy fans and other organisations. This means that he is trying to sell minority stakes in the World Cup to private investors, despite making £15 billion from the current World Cup that's just happened 2 weeks ago.
I mean, how much is it? I mean, it says on the front there, bid earns millions for Trump fat pal Infantino. You can't sell off the World Cup, can you, Catherine?
Absolutely not. And this is the problem. Any private investment that could happen, and let's face it, might happen just because his other controversial proposals have been pushed through, namely the Qatar 2022 World Cup in the winter, the decisions that they made during the current World Cup too. It seems like it could be approved. And the Trump connection is alarming because they've said that if it is approved, FIFA say that Thrive Eternal would be the venture capitalist firm to lead it. And that is founded by Joshua Kushner, who is the brother of US President Donald Trump's son-in-law.
Wow. One quick question before you go. You're brilliant. Sun Sport, everything you need every single day. Thank you, Catherine. Will West Ham be promoted from the Championship, yes or no?
Yes, I think they will be.
Invite her back. We love her. This is Talk Breakfast. Back after the news at 9 next.
Fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
It is therefore my honour to declare that the duly elected leader of the Labour Party is Andy Burnham.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much. I believe in all of you, and I am confident we can do it. Thank you very much. I have just come from Buckingham Palace, where I have accepted His Majesty the King's invitation to form a government. I know people at home are fed up with politics. I hear you, and I want to be honest with you. We have not been good enough, and we need to be better. We will be.
This man has no mandate whatsoever. He didn't stand on the 2024 general election manifesto. You cannot make the biggest change in British politics in 40 years without a mandate from the British people, and it will be only decent, right and proper to call a general election on that issue and to do it now.
Our fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho, the speed this all happened, I know this is a well-trodden debate already, is actually breathtaking. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago he wasn't even an MP. The next he's holding keys to number 10 without the country ever really having a chance to scrutinise him in a prospective prime ministerial nothing at all. We really know very little.
I think Burnham has to walk a fine line. I think that's probably what's going on, because if he were to sweep into Downing Street and say, I'm going to change everything, I'm going to fix everything, I'm going to do things completely differently to Starmer, then people would say, hold on, mate, we need a general election in that case, because no one voted for that. No one voted for you to be Prime Minister. You weren't standing in the 2024 general election. We've never seen your manifesto. Who the hell are you? That's what people would be asking.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. A good final hour in a minute. Toby Perkins, Labour MP for Chesterfield, this hour as well. And Nusiala Rees-Mogg and Michael Gove will be on the show ahead of 10 o'clock. And Alex Phillips here all weekend for Julia Hartley-Brewer. Caroline, good morning.
Jeremy, hi, it's Caroline from London. Oh, my God, Dan Hodgins makes me so angry. I mean, really, we are... The mainstream media are upping the game with Andy Burnham, supporting him. I knew he'd come in, give little sweet spots. You wait till we get the budget. We are being absolutely destroyed in this country on all levels. He won't do anything about the boat people. And my God, are we in trouble. And to be honest, Jeremy, I just want to leave.
I don't stick up for anybody, but actually, with fairness, I will say this about Dan Hodges. He said that optics-wise, Andy Burnham's had a good first week. I think everybody would say that he's actually talking about things that people matter. It took 9 days to talk about boats, but what Dan Hodges said, what I said, what you agree with, Caroline, what almost everybody agrees with, it's all very nice. How are you going to damn well pay for it? There's a left-wing radio station that's accused me in this show of only looking at negatives. We should be jumping up and down saying Burnham's talking about boats, he's talking about benefits, he's talking about buses. Yeah, great, brilliant, far better than your predecessor. This pen would have been better than your predecessor, but, my friend, Great Britain, the hard-working alarm clock Brit, the working people that Labour is supposed to represent are saying in their millions, we're skint, we're struggling, we need to understand why. For example, people can come into this country and end up better off than we have illegally. Why? Not the genuine before people jump up and down, but why the feckless are allowed to stay on the dole and get more than if you go out to work. And those, my friends, are the real issues that people want to talk about. And let's put that to, and delighted, listen, I try really hard to have as much balance as we can. And, Rob, I'm going to ask the question that you sent me just now. Bear that in mind. We'll say a very good morning. Toby Perkins, Labour MP for Chesterfield. Toby, welcome to the Breakfast Show. How are you?
Hi, good morning.
I understand, because I was talking to Dan Hodges, and I'm sure you will agree with this, the optics of the last 9 days have been far better than the predecessor. I'm not sure about the high-vis jacket, but there we go. However, I have a duty, despite what people might say on the left, to question politicians of all parties, and my question will repeatedly be to Andy Burnham and the Labour Party. However good it sounds, let's dissect it. Let's start with his announcement yesterday, Toby, if we can. He broke his silence on the small boats. He said that Labour's plans to stop the small dinghies was working. See, that's an issue. Chris Philp, I don't know if you saw the footage, the Shadow Home Secretary was in northern France. He did a report for me this morning. Not only did a French vessel, we're paying them 500 million quid a year, fire gunshots, but this morning on a beach there were illegal migrants hidden in bushes, gendarmes smoking cigarettes, waving boats on. My question to you and the Labour Party in general is, how can your leader say it's working when 1,000 people have crossed this week and 13,500 have crossed since January? That's not working. That sounded, and I'm being honest, it sounded Starmer-like, the response yesterday, my friend.
Well, that's, we've had a 45% reduction in small boat crossings under in this year. We've got a 75% reduction in net migration. You're right that the problems continue, but it clearly is moving in the right direction.
How? Hold on a second, hold on a second.
Well,
45% reduction in boats.
We're banging up some of these. We're banging up some of these gangs. The gangs are having to change their model because they know that they're under more pressure.
Toby, let's go back. Let's do this slowly. The reason that the boats are down 45%, my friend, you know this, don't let's mislead people, is because the boats are bigger. There was a boat 2 days ago with 165 people on, not 12. 1,000 people have come into this country illegally, and I want to give him a chance, since Andy Burnham became Prime Minister. How can you possibly say that your system, whatever it is working? It isn't.
Well, there's a danger that you're going to mislead people here, because the 45% reduction I'm talking about is the reduction in the number of people arriving on small boats. Whether they've come on a boat of 160 or a boat of 10 makes no difference. Last year, we had around 45,000 arriving by small boats. In the first 7 months of this year, we've had 12,000. That is a reduction of 45%. Now, you are right that the model that these groups are using is changed, and the reason it's changed is that we're banging up the people who are driving these boats, and so they're finding it difficult to continue finding people to drive these boats.
Banging up the people, what does that mean? What does banging up the people mean?
But the people have been arrested. We're breaking up the business model. People have been sent to jail. We had a gang of 7 sent for a total of 120 years in prison a few months ago. We're also
so Starmer was right. He was smashing. So Starmer was right. He was smashing the gangs.
Well, I mean, the policies that we're pursuing now are exactly the ones we were pursuing a couple of weeks ago, and they are working. And Andy Burnham is right to say that. Andy Burnham's focus over the first couple of weeks that he's been in touch and on the policies he wants to change. And in terms of migration, what he's saying is the Home Secretary is doing a good job, and he's reappointed her. And so it's not that it's not as much of a focus; it's that the policy is working now. You know, do we want to do something about the fact that hundreds more have arrived yesterday, and we see that these gangs aren't giving up? We know they're not giving up. We are going to continue to disrupt that business model. But when you've got a 45% reduction, when you've got a 75% reduction in net migration, it's foolish to suggest that Labour's policies haven't made a difference.
I'm confused what the policy is. And by the way, let me be honest with you, I was super critical of the Tories. One of the biggest criticisms at the end was that they didn't instigate Rwanda quick enough. Now, we heard your ex-leader say, I'm going to smash the gangs. My whole approach, by the way, Toby, is not... I don't actually give a toss what party. I don't understand. I haven't understood, as millions of people in this country would agree with me on this. I don't understand whether there's a lack of experience, will, desire. I don't understand what it is, because for me it's really simple. And you are the party of working people. If you are allowing unvetted men to come into this country and you give them a lifestyle that benefits them and makes them almost better off than people who are working, the message is deplorable to working Brits, isn't it?
I do agree with that. I think the amount of money that migrants arriving get is actually very small. I've met migrants in a hotel in Chesterfield. Many of them.
God, mate, I don't want to fall out with you. Let's have it, right? They say, people in your party, these poor people are coming from war-torn countries. They come across, Toby, 7 non-war attritional countries. They come to the United Kingdom because we wipe their backside. It's not, I'm not being rude, I'm being honest. You're not going to wash it with working people in the Red Wall if you stand there or sit there and say they don't get much. They get a 4-star hotel, a mobile phone, and they get a card to spend money. Do it now. Explain to my audience who are working 60 hours a week and can't even afford a curry takeaway on a Friday how you can say, and I quote, they don't get much. Because these people, Toby, I'm telling you, don't think they should get jack.
Well, the truth is that the amount that they get is £8 a day. I've met them. Actually, they are sold a dream. They're sold a nonsense, and it's not true. We do have to take action on the pull factors. And actually, what the Home Secretary's done is the biggest change in asylum policy that we've had in a generation. She said that asylum is no longer a permanent status, that we will review every 30 months whether you are still an asylum seeker. We sent 70,000 asylum seekers back since this government's been in power, and we do need to do more to change those pull factors, because you are right that they are coming across safe countries in order to get here. It is the fact that the attractiveness of Britain has caused a problem in northern France, and one of the things people raise is, well, are the French doing enough to stop them?
Or to have 500 million, and we're paying them 500 million quid. Here's a good question from somebody who's interested in your take on this. It says, could you please ask Toby, his new leader 9 days ago stood in Downing Street and said he wants to end rough sleeping. Why don't the Labour Party put the homeless in 4-star hotels and send the illegal migrants home?
Well, we are sending illegal migrants home. I've just said 70,000 have been sent home since we came to power. We are taking action to end homelessness. But it is very complicated. I was out with the police in Chesterfield on Friday talking about their policies on homelessness. And what they say is many of these people have been in council accommodation, and it hasn't worked either because they've been antisocial, because they have drug addictions, or because they don't want to spend their benefits on rent, they want to spend them on drugs. So I'm afraid homelessness is a very complicated issue. Government are committed to ending it, but it is not as simple as just sticking them in a hotel or in a...
I get that, but Andy Burnham said, he made it sound quite simple. Here's a question that you could perhaps answer than me, because I don't know your constituency. I know that we did a report the other day, unbelievably, just off Park Lane. How many of the people who are homeless in Chesterfield are illegal migrants?
Almost none.
Is it? Because there's a lot in London.
Yeah, very small numbers. I mean, I appreciate maybe different in the cities. In Chesterfield, they're almost entirely British origin.
So, listen, what I've always said, and I say it to everybody, and some people don't like it, I totally respect you coming on, and I mean that, because if we are going to, as a society, are going to be able to understand and move forward in any way, whatever your political persuasion, we have to have these debates. I wanted to talk to you about the other thing, my friend, that has really caused consternation this morning. I had Dan Hodges on. Again, I should caveat this and say that a lot of what your man's done in the first 9 days, I think, has grasped the pulse, really, of what a lot of people are thinking about. And I genuinely mean that. Far more than his predecessor, whose legacy might be Ukraine, but actually working people are what this station's and this show's about and what you're about. So I really liked yesterday when he said, you know, I think we've been living in a society where if you don't go to university, you're seen as a failure, and these NEETs need apprentices, they need an example whereby they can feel that they're going to have a future. But all the work gets undone, Toby, and you have to hear me out, and you have to understand. I mean, this has caused absolute outrage this morning. The Daily Mail's printed an article, which we know is true. Andy Burnham's idea of dealing with a lot of these youngsters is to say to, and I'm going to say this very slowly, because my lot, I've never known them more angry. If your family are all unemployed long-term, right, this is really important, we're going to give them £4,500 a year if they can convince their children to choose a job over living on welfare. Before you jump in, hear me out, right? I absolutely believe right now Andy Burnham has political capital like nobody. But you lot, the 400 of you, didn't even allow Keir Starmer to knock $5 billion off a $333 billion welfare benefits bill. The Parliamentary Party were not having it. They defeated him and they had him on a stick, I think, after that point. Are you one of those Labour MPs who refuses to accept that there are hundreds of thousands of people on PIP, and I'll play you a thing in a minute that will blow your mind, or whatever you want to call it, not the genuine, Toby, not the disabled and the mentally ill, but are you a Labour MP who cannot accept that there are people gaming the system? Because if I was Andy Burnham right now, I'd take all you naysayers on in the Labour Party and go, we are political toast unless you lot understand that the public know there are people gaming the system. That's a massive thing for me about Burnham. Massive.
Well, I do agree that there are people who game the system, and I've met them at my constituency surgeries. I think that the story that's in the Daily Mail is very misrepresentative, because actually you're talking about a tiny number of people who are disabled, 16 and 17-year-olds, who have a single parent, come from a single parent family, whose families would be better off if they were not in an apprenticeship. So the measure that he's talking about will actually save the taxpayer money, but it is going to be a tiny thing. It is a fact that there are a small number of people who will be better off not taking an apprenticeship and being in work. We need, because we're the party of work, to make sure work always pays.
Do you believe that there are people? Do you believe there are people in this country who are gaming the system? Yes or no, bud?
I'm not disputing that there are people. I'm not disputing that there are people. We've seen a big increase under the previous government in people getting personal independence payments as a result of anxiety and so on. That isn't what PIP was generally created for, and so I think he's right to review that.
Yeah.
But the policy around apprenticeships is trying to ensure that a generation who've had parents who haven't been in work don't learn that being out of work pays, they learn that being in work pays. This measure would give £80 a week to families that currently were getting £340 a week. It would save the taxpayer £260 a week. That is a sensible way to reduce the benefit bill, and anyone who attacks it is not serious about moving people off welfare and into work.
Do you believe that the benefits bill as it stands, Toby, I think it's $333 billion against, I mean, for me, as a 60-year-old man, to discover that our welfare benefits bill is greater than the money the Exchequer gets in from people paying tax who work is an absolutely ludicrous scenario. Do you, just very briefly, believe that that welfare benefits bill needs to be cut?
It's really important that you understand that the figure you've just quoted includes the state pension.
Yeah, I know.
Kimmy Badenoch often says this, and people think she's talking about out-of-work benefits. She's talking about the state pension.
Do you believe the bill needs to be cut?
I do believe we need to reduce the PIP bill, and we need to partly do that by supporting people into work. But where there are abuses of the system, of course, we need to take action on that too.
Listen, it's so important to get people's view. I've had a question thrown in, if you don't mind. This is Rob in Newcastle. Why has nothing been said about David Lammy's parting shot to this country? The obstruction of banning the public from getting their hands on the true crime figures that illegal migrants and foreigners have committed. A couple of people have touched upon it, but we should be screaming from the rooftops. It is terrifying, and the Labour government don't want it out. How do you answer that, Toby Perkins?
Well, I mean, quite honestly, I haven't seen the article you're on about, so maybe it does need greater focus. Your caller may be right. I'm not sure what he's referring to.
He's talking about the fact that David Lammy went to court to avoid figures coming out that would say how many crimes foreign illegal criminals are committed.
Quite honestly, I wasn't conscious you were bringing this up. Obviously, callers call in, and that's great. But I don't know the detail behind this, so I'm afraid I can't enlighten you anymore.
All right. In terms of Andy Burnham, you were presumably somebody who supported the removal of Keir Starmer. Do you like what you've seen the first 9 days?
Well, I mean, I came on your show, Jeremy, to say I thought we ought to be a bit more patient, but I absolutely do like what I've seen from Andy Burnham. I think he's made a great start. The polls suggest the public think he's made a great start. He's addressing some of the key issues, both in terms of the cost of living and getting youngsters into work that have bedeviled our country. And I think he's made a great start, and I want more power to his elbow.
Do you think you would understand, absolutely very quickly, that the focus has to be on explaining to the British public how you're going to pay for these things, just as a final point, yeah?
Yeah, of course he's going to. Some of these things are going to cost money. Some of them aren't. Actually, getting people off unemployment and into apprenticeship is going to save us money, not cost us money. But yes, there will be things that cost money. But we, as a country, spend a huge amount of money on failure. We need to spend a lot more money on supporting people to do better for themselves.
Talking about failure, you know me, I'm straight, you're straight with me. I've got a voice note from Jane. Are you prepared to listen to it?
Sure.
Jane, speak.
Jeremy, that Labour MP from Chesterfield. Never mind £8 a day. What about that lady that rang in before? She has £900 a month from her state pension and had to spend £800 on a private dentist because she can't get into the NHS, where we're literally having clinics 2 times a week for these illegal migrants on NHS dentists, NHS doctors. I had to wait 6 weeks for a doctor's appointment the other week. It's just, they're not getting it. They don't get it. I hope they get it at the ballot box.
You can answer that, Toby. She's from Chesterfield, unbelievably.
Jane, I really hope that you get in touch with me and we can discuss this at a constituency surgery that I hold every week. But it's absolutely true that whilst NHS waiting times have come down, we need to do more to support people to get those appointments. I don't know the details of the story that she's on about, but clearly we need people to be able to access healthcare. In terms of the migrants arriving, you know, it's not in anyone's interest for them not to be able to get healthcare, but they shouldn't be jumping the queue at all. It's not my experience that they have done, but if the biggest thing we can do is make sure that lady she refers to gets the healthcare that she wants. 7 million more appointments every year, but we need to keep doing more.
Can I say to all the people who are going, I don't agree with this man, we don't always agree with everybody in life, and I absolutely respect you, Toby Perkins, for coming on. Long may that continue. Thank you, my friend. Labour MP for Chesterfield, 9:22. You would talk breakfast. 0344 499 1000 is the telephone number. You can text 87222. Teresa, morning. I know a lady who's on all sorts of benefits, and to get the amount she's getting, you would have to be earning 48 grand a year, and that's tax-free. Morning, Jez. Of course, Polanski isn't going to go apologise because he knows there's no consequences. He's pathetic and we should ignore him. Jez, put the illegal migrants on a cold, empty Scottish island in prefabs. You've plenty of islands, 790 of them off Scotland. Process them there. This avoids them being in our communities, in hotels, in HMOs. Win, win, win. Tim's in Southampton. Jez, Burnham won't call an early election because he's avoided scrutiny at every level since he got into number 10. An election would mean scrutiny which he wouldn't be able to handle. That's your thing. Stephen says, we're letting the French fish in our waters for a bunch of years. What are we getting in return? Bugger all. And we're giving him 500 million quid and talk. Jez, regarding the guy that made that PIP claim, we played this clip earlier. A man was able, didn't want it, thought he'd have a go for us, gets £170 a month giving it back. This bloke says, I bet it'll be bloody harder in this country for him to cancel the bloody claim rather than make it in the first place. That sums it up. Till breakfast. She says I look like Andy Burnham, so she's created a TikTok account. I'm Mandy Burnham. Who have you been told in the past you look like?
I think compared to me, those two are heavyweight champions. I wouldn't put myself in such a muscular context. But Charles Hawtrey, I think, was one of the funniest actors. I loved his appearances in the Carry On films.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. 9:25. Talk is on, of course, the home of common sense and the home of you, the alarm clock Brit. Alex Phillips here from 10 o'clock, sounding brilliant. Ian Collins from 1 and Kev O'Sullivan with Drive on Talk from 4 o'clock. Jezza, please get that disillusioned Toby off air. He's not got a bloody clue what Alarm Clock Britain can see with their own eyes. Great show, says Diane in Bedfordshire. Thank you very much, Steve. Dave H. Yeah. The Party of the Worker, totally disillusional. Thanks, says Dave in Dorset. Morning, Jess, says Chris Houth. £8 a day for asylum seekers is totally disingenuous. That's the cash they receive. There's heating, food, accommodation. That's all for free. Let's have it real. More gaslighting. Labour deported 70,000. Most of them are self-deported after overstaying visas, not illegal migrants. Boats dropping at the start of the year due to bad weather only. Nothing stopping them now. This, by the way, very quickly, is Jez, please don't use my real name, but this will make your blood boil. I'm going to take a breath. It's a picture which I wouldn't put on air. I have a neighbour who is absolutely gaming the welfare system and fraudulently claiming PIP and whatever else he can get his hands on. He claims that he is disabled, that he gets the higher proportion of the mobility car allowance, which then entitles him to a car. Well, guess what? He's working as a full-time mobile car mechanic, lifting 40 kg trolley jacks, scratching about on the floor, up and down, heavy lifting. He's got a mobility car, but doesn't need or use it. His totally abled wife, therefore, drives around in it, also posing a fraudulently used blue disabled badge, whilst he goes in his own van earning cash. Honestly, I know we go... I don't know if this is going to go down very well. In fact, I think Christian's going to probably fire me. Wasn't there a system where you could dob on your neighbour? Do you remember that? Yeah, do it. I don't care if that's unpopular. I think it is absolutely outrageous to say to people, my lot have been here since 4:30 this morning. Why didn't you all just stay in bed and sign on? It's a joke. We say a very good morning. Head of comms at Popular Conservatism. We love Annunziata Rees-Mogg. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
Well, I'm going to play you a clip. Are you ready for this clip? This was a message I had earlier. We've had Toby Perkins on. He says there isn't an issue and people are... He said some are gaming the system, but most people on the dole or on PIP are disabled or mentally ill. This was a text I read out earlier, madam. Have a listen. You'll love this. This is from Richard. Jez, I'm an alarm clock Brit working this morning from 2 a.m. I decided recently to apply, just to see how it works, online for PIP, although there was absolutely nothing wrong with me. I found out yesterday that my application has been successful and I'm going to be paid £170 a month. Now, I'm a decent guy. I'm going to call them, refuse payment and tell them what I was doing. I've never had to talk to one single bloody person during the process. And ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are listening in the United Kingdom, that is exactly what's wrong with our benefit system. Annunziata?
Oh, it's just ridiculous. People are certainly gaming it. Every single one of us knows of someone who is playing the system to some extent or another. We also know of genuine cases who really struggle to get the services they need. And the system is completely broken and skewed towards people who know how to use it to their own advantage. And I think one of your callers rang in and pointed out that that man will find it harder to cancel it and give it back than he did to claim it. And we all know that's true.
And that's what my argument is with that 400-strong Parliamentary Labour Party. When Keir Starmer, and I had no time for Starmer, tried to knock £5 billion off a £333 billion bill, which, yes, Toby Perkins is right, includes the state pension. He was literally castigated, he was literally crushed, and he ended up being able to knock nothing of it. Am I supposed to suddenly believe that those 400 Labour MPs have started to work out that these people who are complaining about this system being gamed are not far-right activists. They're just hard-working Brits, because I thought Labour was supposed to be the party of the working people. And that when, and I've been saying it all morning, that when you go to work and you graft and you see people coming in illegally getting more than you have, whatever Toby Perkins says, because they do get more than people who work. When you see people who are feckless and are gaming the system and are sitting at home doing better than you, what message as a society does that send for all of us? The worst one.
Absolutely the worst one. That, you know, when it doesn't pay to work, when you have families that are going to be paid $4.5 grand so that their children take apprenticeships rather than carry on claiming the higher benefits that they could be eligible for, you know the system is broken. We should have a system in which work pays and benefits don't. Benefits are a last resort. We all believe in a safety net for those who really need it, but this isn't what we've got. We've got a system where lots of people are much better off by not working. There was another case recently where 16-year-olds can get driving lessons if they're on a SIP. Now, that makes a lot of 17-year-olds or, you know, 15-year-olds turning 16 want to get a diagnosis of some kind so that they can get the free driving lessons that would cripple them financially if they were to try and do it themselves. So that people who genuinely want to work can't get on in life, but those who game the system and quite often create much bigger dramas in their lives than actually exist, they get. And we're giving young people in particular absolutely the wrong lesson in what makes for a good life.
I mean, we have an ongoing joke, me and your brother Jacob, because he always says how devastated I must be that my cousin Peter Carr got fired. He's nothing to do with me. I can say this, obviously I'm a lot younger than Jacob, but I remember, and somebody said it earlier, I must feel, and I think other people of my age and people who listen to this must feel the same, I feel like I come from a different universe because we went to work and grafted and climbed the greasy pole with dedication and effort, or we went to college or uni. We didn't have the choice of signing on. And the reason that Toby Perkins, he said those figures wrong, the reason that I am so appalled by that story on the front of the Mail this morning, which I absolutely fundamentally believe is probably my response would get me thrown out. But we're basically saying to long-term unemployed people who have obviously ingrained that into their kids because their kids don't want to do an apprenticeship, we'll give you $4.5 grand, so more benefits, because you'll lose money if your kid gets an apprenticeship. I would stop all of their benefits and say, if you can't prove you're mentally ill or disabled, you're going to get off your arse and give something back to society, be it through community service or whatever, because we have created a generation, I don't care what anybody says, this is a fact, we've created a generation of people, and they won't have the argument, the left, because they say, what about, I'm not talking about the genuine people, you made the point so well, we care about those people, but why are we not able to say there are people taking the mickey out of a system that is that pliable and that soft, and it's not just the claimants of benefits, illegal migrants as well. We're a joke, and that's true.
Absolutely, and we know, and it came up with your interview with Toby, the Labour MP for Chesterfield, that illegal migrants do in part come here for the kind of crazy benefits we give them. And yes, there's the £8 cash a day, but there's, as he mentioned, the free healthcare, the free dentistry. These are things they would not be getting in their own countries, but we are handing on a plate, and that is a very big pull factor. But also, children should not be a cash cow. Children are a responsibility and an expense, and we've lifted, well, the Labour Party lifted the two-child cap and have got this system whereby parents are making more money by saying their children are disabled in some way. And we don't by that mean that they are very majorly disabled. We mean they've got ADHD, or I think it's a
disability.
It's a quarter of them that are on pretty mild supposed mental concerns. And we're paying them more for that than if those children who are capable went out to work. The system is completely upside down. It encourages it. It encourages people to abuse it.
I mean, I can't agree anymore.
It's the hard-working who have to pay the tax to cover that. It's people on very minimum wages. We know that pensions are being drawn into the tax system.
It's almost, to me, Annunciata, it's like we have, and this sort of, to me, covers police, social care, employment. There's no doubt in the past, how do I say this carefully, that there were problems in society, but the rise, and I hate the word woke, and I hate that, I don't like all that stuff, but the truth of the matter is we've swung so far in the opposite direction. The boss of one of the biggest television companies in the land told me 6 months ago that if you're white, 21, and you come out of a university with a degree, an honours degree in journalism, you are at the back of the damn queue, and that is because you don't tick the boxes that need ticking. And so for me, so much more is we've made a generation, I think, of people dependent or people who don't have to make those choices that, to me, we had to. We went to work or you had nothing. You were successful, you didn't take a day off with anxiety, you tried to make the most of it so that you were promoted and earned more money. What's wrong with that?
Absolutely, and nothing. It's how it should work. It's how it's got to work for society to function. And I think a lot of this does come back to our generation of parents who nothing was ever a child's fault. But that in turn comes back to the government being more and more nanny state.
Yep.
So that something is always someone else's fault. And we've lost personal responsibility. And we need to regain it for the adults, but for the children too.
It's brilliant to have you on. We love having you on. Head of Comms at Popular Conservatism, Annunciata Rees-Mogg. Thank you so much indeed. Johnny, good morning.
Morning, Jez. It's Johnny in the van. Just wanted to comment on that Labour MP you were interviewing just now. He mentioned something about migrants as he was ending the interview there. He said, you know, migrants are entitled to have healthcare and dentistry, but not ahead of the British public. Comments like that make my blood boil. They're not entitled to that at all. They're not entitled to anything. They've not paid into the system. They've arrived here illegally. They are not entitled to anything. And it's people like him that absolutely infuriate me and most other people. You know, oh, well, they're entitled to this, entitled to that. They're entitled to nothing. We owe these people nothing. It makes my so angry. Love the show, mate.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Thank you so much indeed for your involvement today. Great guests, great involvement. 0344 419 1000, the two main news stories in town, obviously. Apparently Andy Burnham on day 9 realises that he's sorted. He said, I've sorted. We don't have a problem with legal migrants. The Labour Party are proving it. Things are working. Apparently things are dropping. He failed to point out that 1,000 more illegal migrants have arrived in the last few days. You might have seen some footage earlier. Chris Phil, Shadow Home Secretary, was live this morning for us in northern France.
Footage of the French authorities.
The gendarmes smoking Gaulois and just waving people onto boats, all to come here and be given stuff that people haven't paid for. The other thing, of course, is the outrage with benefits. Yesterday, Burnham talked about getting more kids into apprenticeships. This morning, Front of the Mail runs the story that he's going to bribe long-term unemployed families. If you lose money by your child going on an apprenticeship, we'll give you £4,500 to make sure you're OK, to bribe them to go on it. What happened to hard work? Let's finish with the best guest of the day. That's no disrespect to anybody else. Still didn't invite me to his summer party. The editor of The Spectator, former legend. Good morning, Lord Michael Gove.
Hi, good morning, Jeremy. Whenever there's a drink and I'm there, you're welcome. And I think Annunziata Rees-Mogg is the top guest. I mean, everything she says is very sensible, and she's far better looking than me.
I'm not going to disagree with that, but I am going to go back to the fact that I wasn't invited to your party, and I'm still smarting from it, Michael, but I'm sure you'll get over that next year. My friend, you've been tweeting a lot about education. You've been at the centre of government for so long, and you know more about everything than I will ever know, but I've sort of, my view of Burnham was, you know, optics-wise, I mean, I think this pen would have been optics-wise better than Starmer, but seems to be talking in the last 9 days about, you know, the things that seemingly matter. The Starmer just in Ukraine, but the things that seem to matter. But, of course, our job, your job, my job, is to actually say to this man and make people aware that these things need paying for. So it's this list of giveaways and how are we going to do it. Yesterday, he started talking about, you know, how important it was to get kids into apprenticeships. And, Michael, I found myself agreeing because I don't believe that all kids want to, need to, or are good enough or get anything out of going to university. So I see that. And then I wake up to the Daily Mail this morning, which basically says, we'll say to the long-term unemployed families, if your kid, if you could convince your child to go on an apprenticeship, we'll give you £80 a week. What's happened to this country, Michael Gove?
Well, the first thing is you're absolutely right. My pet dog, Snowy, would have been a more substantial figure in number 10 than Keir Starmer. He was a vacuum where leadership should have been. He made a hole in the air seem substantial. So, you know, Andy Burnham is bound to be an improvement. The second thing, though, to say is that while Andy Burnham is smarter and more personable than Keir Starmer, he's probably, except on crime, I think, more left-wing. And he seems to think that there is no problem for which more public money and more state intervention is not the answer. And we've already reached the end of the road when it comes to spending other people's money trying to solve problems which need to be solved by restoring the right incentives and making sure that we have the discipline that comes from promoting hard work, enterprise and innovation. And you're right, apprenticeships are a very good thing, but people should take them because they want to improve themselves and succeed in the future, not because there is another bung or another fiddle in the welfare system.
Completely. I mean, I'm old enough to remember YTSs. They used to be criticised, but I've spoken to many people this morning who did a YTS. They didn't get much money, but they learned to trade and they've made a career. I mean, as I say, I'm old enough to remember that we were asked to go to work or go to college. That wasn't the choice. And I said to Toby Perkins, this Labour MP, he wouldn't have it. But you know, there isn't anybody, I don't think, across the political divide that doesn't believe that a system that helps people who can't help themselves is absolutely fantastic, and I'll continue to pay whatever into that, happy. But I do think we've got to a point, and I don't know whether this Labour Party has it in them, to stand up and say there are hundreds of thousands of people gaming the system in this country and making it difficult, A, for those who genuinely need it, but also sticking two fingers up to your hard-working Brit, who must be looking at what we do with those feckless people and with the illegal migrants, and I've said it all day, Michael, going, why do I work 60 hours a week? Why do I live within the confines of the law? Why do I save and not have enough to go to the pub or buy a takeaway on a Friday when everybody else who does nothing seemingly gets more than I do? It's incomprehensible to me, that.
You're absolutely right. I think that all of us would think that a proper welfare system is right. And when universal credit was introduced by Ian Duncan Smith, that was a reform to the welfare system to incentivise work, to provide for people who couldn't work. The problem has been that PIP, the personal independence payment, which is another part of the welfare system, has been gamed extensively. Go on YouTube or TikTok and you'll find influencers who can tell you how to game the system. pretend to have some form of, mental ill health, some sort of condition, and the state ATM will hand out the cash. This has resulted in a situation where 20% of the country consider themselves to be disabled. It is ridiculous. We've got a culture of learned dependency. And if you or I wanted to, I know you would never do it, Jeremy, but we could say, I think I've got ADHD.
Have you heard the text message this morning, or have you been busy? It's 30 seconds, right? So, in completely what you said, 6:30 this morning, guy called Richard. Have a listen to this, Michael Gove. This is exactly what you're saying. This is from Richard. Jez, I'm an alarm clock Brit working this morning from 2 a.m. I decided recently to apply just to see how it works online for PIP, although there was absolutely nothing wrong with me. I found out yesterday that my application has been successful and I'm going to be paid £170 a month. Now, I'm a decent guy. I'm going to call them, refuse payment and tell them what I was doing. I've never had to talk to one single bloody person during the process. And ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are listening in the United Kingdom, that is exactly what's wrong with our benefit system. It is, isn't it, Michael Gove?
100%. And again, what was originally compassion for people who were living with disabling conditions, and I don't want to diminish the fact that if you are suffering from a very severe mental health condition, you need all the support, sympathy, and care possible.
Of course.
But at the same time, the system has become corrupted, so it is much easier for people to game. And you and I both know that even if you are living with a mild condition, mild anxiety, mild depression, the right thing to do is to be active.
And to be amongst people rather than sat on your home. I mean, liaison with, meeting, greeting, talking and spending time with people. How do you... you do a variety of jobs across government, and genuinely, I always used to watch and think, my God, how does he do it? What's the answer? Because you're right about Ian. We had Ian Duncan-Smith on earlier. He made real change in the years he was at work and pensions. Do we need to be tougher? Do we need to stand in front of the British public and say this won't be palatable for many of you, but people are taking the mickey and it's got to end?
Yes, because I think the majority of people entirely, as you pointed out earlier, are compassionate but resent the fact that their compassion is being exploited by a system that incentivizes the scammers and the slackers. More broadly, as you correctly point out as well, people, when it comes to the migration system, are very, very willing to have Britain provide a welcome home for people who are genuinely fleeing persecution in limited numbers, as was the case with the Homes for Ukraine scheme. What we are not prepared to do is to continue to have, as you pointed out earlier, dinghies arriving from France, a safe country, the last time both of us looked at it, onto our shores, and then when people arrive here, the government saying, don't worry, we're processing these claims more quickly. Yeah, they are processing these claims more quickly, and that means that individuals who've come here, simply because they want a better life at our expense, are allowed to do so. The fundamental unfairness of the system resides in the fact that people's basic decency is being exploited. And the government, instead of taking steps in order to ensure that the balance sits in the right place, are too scared of various lobbies and too inhibited when it comes to challenging some of the existing legal structures to do what is required. And the longer it continues, the greater the sense of, on the one hand, anger, but on the other hand, just disaffection and apathy.
And actually the word, disaffection and apathy is absolutely right, but the word that I hear repeatedly, Michael, is it's unfair, is that word fairness. And because I'm a bit old-fashioned. I have great faith in the British public, actually. I think they're steadfast and brilliant, and I think for many years they understood, you know, we were the moral leaders of the world, we'll do this, we'll do that. But, you know, for example, last week, somebody played me that clip of when Donald Trump took power and he said $60 million for some LGBTQ plus place in Lesotho. Nobody's ever heard of it. And everybody went, oh, that's outrageous. But the truth is, he decided, some people criticised, to put the money to the American people first. And I almost feel like in this world of we've got to do the right thing, we've gone so far the other way, with the justice, with the police, with getting a job, with almost everything, that we're really, really at a point where your average hard-working Brit, the alarm clock Brits, are going, I don't know what's the point anymore. And then, you know, anybody who's aspirational, successful, a millionaire, anybody who's built a business, they're all leaving. We let migrants in and send people who are successful away. It just doesn't make any sense to me anymore, Michael, being honest.
You're absolutely right. A long time ago in the 1980s, Margaret Thatcher was speaking in Scotland, and she talked about the parable in the Bible, in the New Testament, of the Good Samaritan. We all know it. The Good Samaritan was the individual who found someone by the roadside, gave them money, gave them a chance. And she said, of course, the whole thing is that the Good Samaritan was only able to exercise charity because he had the money in the first place. Britain can only pay for its own NHS, pay to educate its own citizens, pay to have an army that can defend us and can also stand up for democracy abroad. If we have a strong economy, we can only have a strong economy if people are incentivized to work hard. We can only do that if we have taxes which are low enough in order to ensure that people want to work and to invest in this country. So a precondition of generosity is having a system which rewards those who do the right thing.
Yeah.
And it's all very well to draw up a long list of compassionate causes, all of which we would want to support. But the individuals who spend all of their time listing the areas where more public money is required, they very rarely think, well, where does this public money come from?
Yep. And that's my point. I mean, you'll know, because I'm not going to say it on air, but there's a certain sort of left-wing radio presenter who thinks I'm the devil incarnate, who spent the last 9 days saying all Kyle will do on talk, not salute Andy Burnham for touching the pulse of the nation and talking about things that matter. All he'll go on in his negative way is by saying, how's it going to be paid for? And yes, I bloody well will, because Britons are on the brink, struggling unbelievably, and don't understand why everybody else is getting a payout.
Is that Ampleforth educated public schoolboy James O'Brien?
I've never heard of him. Oh, no, privately educated. Oh, is he really? There's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yes, you know, exactly. James O'Brien. You know, he's very articulate. That's because he's benefited from a public school, which I think now costs something like £30,000 a year for the parents. But as you quite rightly point out, the generosity that Andy Burnham is displaying is not personal generosity. Well, actually, to be fair, he does give a slice of his salary to good causes. Good for him. I approve of that.
Yep.
However, the money that he's spending to reduce bus fares or to relieve tax on pubs, these may be the right individual decisions, but they depend ultimately on a growing economy. And ultimately, that tax that is being spent comes from working people. So when bus fares are reduced, it's not the case that the money falls from the heavens at Andy Burnham's command. That money comes from the pockets of the people who are on those buses.
Absolutely. And I will not stop saying that. Michael, great. Seriously, thank you. I know you're a busy man. Looking forward to the Spectator Christmas party invite. Very good. Fantastic. Lord Michael Gove, thank you so much indeed. Love having you on the show. Do you want to play a bit of that clip now, or are we going to an ad break? Earlier on, Chris Philp, Shadow Home Secretary, brilliant, by the way, on the shores of northern France. Migrants hidden in bushes, gendarmes passing people. The reality, Andy Burnham says it's sorted. Have a couple of minutes of this. It's great.
The French officers could clearly see we were conducting an interview on the back of the fishing boat. They sailed extremely close to us and started firing gunshots, 11 live rounds. We could see the bullets hitting the water behind our boat. They weren't firing before their approach. They weren't firing afterwards. There was no notification of any kind of training exercise. So it did seem to me to be an effort to intimidate us.
The thing that I find, and I should say alarm clock Brits find so frustrating, Chris, and this is why I wanted you on this morning. Yesterday, finally, the unelected Messiah of Manchester stood up and said to consummate fury from most of us that Labour's plan to stop dinghy migrants is working. This, Chris, despite the fact that 1,000 illegal migrants have still come into this country in the last 9 days since he became Prime Minister. I want to ask you this question. Why is there seemingly, with repeated governments, repeated Home Secretaries, this inability, this... Is it a lack of will? Is it fear? I see fear in Andy Burnham's eyes when he's asked, why can't politicians go, we are not talking about people who are leaving war-torn countries, we're talking about unvetted men coming into our country, and I, the Home Secretary, am going to finally damn well do something about it. Why doesn't that happen, Chris?
Well, it's certainly what should happen. I mean, just a couple of facts first. The reason why migrant numbers are down a bit this year is because of the weather. I spoke to a skipper yesterday about that who was very clear. It's the weather. It's not Shabana Mahmood's terrible deal that involves handing over £500 million of our money. You're quite right. France is a safe country. Nobody needs to flee France. This crisis is going on as we speak. Yesterday on the Channel, I witnessed a boat with about 100 illegal immigrants setting off from France. The French authorities did nothing to stop it, and that boat arrived in UK waters at about midnight, and those illegal immigrants are probably now in a hotel. It's that boat there that's on your screen, which I filmed yesterday. Today is going to be even worse. I'm on the ground in northern France right now. I've just, in the last 10 minutes, been into a camp of illegal migrants, mainly Eritreans, just up this road behind me. The beach is in the other direction, about 200 metres, and they are preparing to get a small boat sometime later on today. We understand there are also about 50 illegal immigrants hidden in the dunes behind me, also waiting to cross. We understand there are potentially 7 boats crossing the Channel already today, likely carrying at least 500 illegal immigrants, and by the time the day is over, it could even be 1,000 illegal immigrants who have crossed today. So there's
to be here with you all in the heart of Manchester this Friday morning at the end of, you know, a fairly big week is just everything to me.
If I have to watch one more saccharine video of him pulling a pint or talking about his favourite bar snacks with John Healy, whatever mawkish, minimalising, utterly moronic, stupid bit of social media tidbit they're trying to throw to us, you know, the sugar to help the Marxist medicine go down.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Alex Phillips is here. I love this, Alex. Jeremy, I worked in a shop in the town centre and somebody parked their car with a disabled badge outside and came limping in saying, I haven't got much money. What are the prices of things? I'm on the dole. When they left without the walking stick. So I chased them down the street saying, you're cured! You're cured, says Jean Hull. Yesterday, I asked you if you were going to have a date. It's not for me to ask. What have you arrived in your wedding dress? What's that, love? What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Already. Gretna Green, off we go.
Did you have a date last night?
No.
No?
No. No, I just went, I sat outside the local pub, had a couple of glasses
on
of
your
wine.
own? How was business?
It was fine. No, I was with all my neighbours. I was with the community, and we talked about life and politics. And
I love listening to you on the radio. What you got today, babe?
OK, we are talking...
That doesn't mean I don't like seeing you on television, by the way, if somebody gets offended. Go on.
All right.
All right.
You've thrown me off now.
I got you biscuits.
Oh, thanks. What have we got?
Oatmeal biscuits from M&S, all right?
It's a bit woke.
do you mean it's a bit woke?
Oatmeal? I don't know. If it was a bit...
Well, if you don't want them, you can shove them with... I was just being nice.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Well, I
get your teeth
might
around that.
indulge.
You can nibble. Go on.
Thank you. Right, we are going to be talking... Andy Burnham's doing